Wolfpack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you wolves here with your Week 8, the midpoint, the halftime of the fantasy football season. This is where the dreams can be won or lost. The massive comeback turnaround begins. The empire could collapse. You got to keep getting those big wins this week. So I, of course, am here to answer every single question that we get between now and 10 a.m. So we will dive right in. Thank you so much for spending your Week 8 Sunday morning on over here with me. Cannot wait to help you guys out and get those W's. To start the week, we are going to, as always, break down some Thursday night football takeaways. Ultimately, there wasn't a ton of big change here for the Vikings side of things. It was more so the Rams side of things that we are getting some big changes on. So let's dive on in here with the takeaways. The big one being, welcome back, Puka. What a smashing debut. Now, we talked about him for quite some time on Thursday night. He was one of the highlight questions we kept getting. And for the most part, I was plus 14 ECR on him. So I had a big stance in terms of if you don't have much else, if you're in that wide receiver 30-ish range anyways, why not toss in your first-round pick? And so a lot of people hopefully got him into the lineups. He comes back, absolutely smashes, leads the team with his 9 targets, catches 7 of them for 106 yards. A great welcome back party for Puka Nacua, ultimately out-targeting Cooper Kupp, who had a nice night himself, 5 catches, 51 yards, and a touchdown. Fine. Nice wide receiver 2 night, not the 18-target day I was expecting myself. But hey, not a bad night at the office. Demarcus Robinson, of course, once everybody comes back, he ends up producing 35 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tutu Atwell, the odd man out here, 18 yards on just 2 targets. He can safely be dropped here. It was the Kyren Williams show, as we all know as well. Another 20-plus half PPR points, depending on your scoring settings, and 64 of the 71 snaps going to Kyren Williams. What a punt returner that guy is, huh? Oh, my God. He is a smash of all smashes so far this year. That was the big news for the Rams. In addition, though, you got to just look at Stafford moving forward. Probably a low-end QB1. You see 279 and 4 touchdowns, completing 25 of 34. When the band is all together, this is what we talked about on that Thursday stream as well. This Rams team was top 2 in points per game last year, high-end pace, ultimately such fantasy value and expected EPA for this Rams team when they have all of Puka, Cooper Kupp, and Kyren Williams. There's only about 5 games last year where they had that, and they were towards the top of the league in so many categories. So good to see that. It seemed like it's kind of you have to win to keep the band together type of thing. If we lose, Cooper Kupp might get shipped out here. We're facing a lost season. But now the Rams right back in the thick of things, second place in their division, and not hard to ascend to the top right now over there in the NFC West. On the Viking side of things, mostly just confirming priors here. Aaron Jones, the only running back to touch the ball, 19 carries, 58 yards, did add 37 yards to the air. Not a huge day, but ultimately the usage is just so big. Chandler not even sniffing the field, not even touching the rock. As always, we had Justin Jefferson, another 115 yards, another 8 catches, ho-hum, what he does every week. It's kind of crazy because he's the clear-cut number 1 player in fantasy at this point. I don't think many people would argue that. And yet he doesn't really have any of those like 50-point massive blowups on his resume compared to, say, a Jamar Chase. But each and every week, you're getting your 18 points. You're feeling great about it. Maybe the only guy getting adjusted here, not Darnold, 240 and 2 touchdowns. You'd love to see him play a full, steady game. 2 touchdowns on his first 2 drives and nothing else really. Kind of annoying there, but still getting you his 18 to 20 points from Sam Darnold. The one guy that's probably getting a bump down, actually not probably, definitely, is Jordan Addison here. 3 targets, 2 catches, 22 yards. And we don't even have TJ Hockenson out there quite yet. So Addison, very frustrating, annoying to see this inconsistent up or down production and mostly down production. So he will be looking forward as we'll have to look at him as a different type of start moving forward. But that's all I have for the Week 8 Thursday Night Football takeaways. If you have anything else you'd want me to discuss from that game, please let me know as we build up the mailbag. Over 50 questions on in there. You'll love to see it. Thank you so much. Free way to support your boy is that thumbs up button on YouTube, the heart on Twitter, shares, likes, retweets, all that good stuff. We'll dive in to some news. There's some big news this morning, specifically at the quarterback position with Jayden Daniels. We'll cover all that As always, if you need to get in and out, a super chat is the way to cut the line. It's so greatly appreciated. You guys have been incredibly generous, like 30 super chats back-to-back Sundays. I mean, it's been incredible. Never expected, but always so greatly appreciated to help keep these lights on over here at the Roto Street headquarters. Thank you again so much. My man Campanelli will be watching out for anybody that can cut the line today. But until then, let's dive into some of our biggest news. Thanks again so much for being here, guys. Dan Quinn, that's the biggest news of the day, saying Jayden Daniels, he's labeled a game-time decision, but Adam Schefter pointing to a few facts. They did not elevate a QB. According to his sources, they are feeling really solid. All signs point to Jayden Daniels playing in Week 8. And unless you have a top 5 quarterback, I kind of cut that line at Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts, obviously the big ones in Lamar and Josh Allen. If you have those guys, okay, maybe this is the week to rest Jayden Daniels. But otherwise, he's been too damn good. This team is leading the NFL in points. Jayden Daniels is right there at the top of the position behind only Lamar Jackson and Baker Mayfield, of all people, in terms of fantasy points per game. So Jayden Daniels, you can feel great about you can't feel amazing because it's, one, a tough matchup against the Bears. 2, what if he flares up? What if his injury is lingering? What if it hampers him at all? That's a little concern. There's no doubt about it. The floor is lower than it typically is for Jayden Daniels. But still, this is the guy that has been absolutely dominant. And you'd have to have some very good options to be considering benching. Let me know, who you're weighing. But like I said, he's my quarterback 6 or 7 on this week, and I would not be benching Jayden Daniels if I have him myself. Mike McDaniels on the Dolphin side of things, saying Tua has cleared concussion protocol. He's going to start this week. Tyreek Hill crying tears of joy, he said in practice. The band is back together. Everything was looking beautiful. According to McDaniel, they consulted multiple neurologists, and all of them said there's zero concern with him returning despite this concussion history. So we shall see how it all plays out. He's not going to wear the concussion cap, so I guess he's just ready to roll. Everybody seeming to think that we got Tua locked in here, and all your Dolphins as a result. Devon Achane, of course, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they all get huge bumps up. If you play on DFS, the pricing did not get the appropriate bump up, so all those guys are definitely in play here for that. For DFS, if that's where you linger. We'll continue on with the quarterback news. Not much else left, but we did get a super chat from my man, Anthony Fella. Thank you so much. Always supporting your boy over here, Anthony. It is so greatly appreciated. $5 coming on in from Anthony Fella. Thank you, brother. Wolfpack, let's get this dub. Pick 1 full PPR. Tank Dell or Chris Olave. Thanks as always, and cheers. Cheers to you, Mr. Fella. So this is a tricky one. I know Tank Dell terrifying right now. 0 donut last week. Ugh. And I know you don't want to hear it, but you're going to have to hear the fact that he did have yet another touchdown clink off. His hand just barely overthrown on another. He's consistently that guy that's just like, why is everything going wrong that could go wrong for Tank Dell? He should be having routine 15-plus point days. The tricky thing is here, Spencer Rattler, such an unknown. I don't want to trust him. I know, we barely got to see him and Olave play together, and Rattler did say, when he was first introduced as the starter, I'm going to look for 12 and I'm going to chuck him the rock. Maybe that narrative continues and plays out here. I can't trust it, though. If you guys have been watching any Saints games, you know it's been abysmal. He's been getting sacked time and time again, throwing interception after interception. The arm looks live. It looks okay. But I guess we saw Mason Tipton have some decent days even there, and it's facing freaking Tipton. So can Olave get it done? Yeah, probably can. I am still leaning Tank Dell despite him disappearing on you last week. The Colts are just such big play merchants. They're giving up so much. The 20-plus yard plays, top 5 in the league there, especially 2 passing games here. I'm always been a Tank Dell purist. I can never quit the dude. And even to the goose egg last week, even the kick to the face from him, wherever you want to think that goes. I'm just going back to the well here. I'm going to go to Tank Dell. I think the matchup is too good with Indianapolis. I think he's too good of a player to continue to struggle. It really is a play calling issue. I mean, CJ Stroud himself is not doing anything in fantasy right now compared to his rookie season. So I am concerned. The whole offensive philosophy seemed messed up there. I thought Bobby Slowick was going to be one of these sharp guys, and ultimately it is just a mess right now. But I think I'm leaning Tank Dell here. Again, the matchup is better. I won't lie to you, though. I had to peek at my rankings, and I have Tank Dell 27 and Chris Olave 28. So the first super chat we get is the first back-to-back in the rankings. It's same tier. It couldn't be closer. So it is a tough one, but I'm going to lean Tank Dell there. The matchup against the Chargers, not a great one. They've not been a very generous pass D. It's kind of those games go fast. They just bleed the clock. I think they're going to run the ball, the Chargers, down the throat of the Saints here. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Tank Dell there. All righty. Thank you so much, Mr. Fella, for your super chat. If anybody else wants to cut the line, that is the way to do so. But again, the free way with over 270 of you right off the jump. You love to see it. Hit that thumbs up, hit that like button on Twitter, on YouTube. It is so greatly appreciated to help us get out to more people and keep growing the stream. To wrap up the QB news, as always, as we mentioned, we do have Tua back today. That's the probably biggest news other than Jayden Daniels. And then Will Levis, he is questionable for week 8 against the Lions. Hopefully he doesn't play. It would be interesting to see what does Mason Rudolph do against a bad secondary. What does Calvin Ridley do? I've already cut Calvin Ridley where I have him. I don't need to give him any more chances. The fantasy locker room needed to see that happen. The boys are playing fired up ball as a result. But ultimately, you don't want to play Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. You're not starting either of them. But it's just more so, could Calvin Ridley get a season on track with Mason Rudolph potentially today? Who knows? It'd be nice to see for those of you that are still somehow holding out hope. Carr, as we mentioned with that Chris Olave question, Carr is doubtful. Going to be the Spencer Rattler show. It's not been a pretty show by any means, but does make the Chargers defense a whole great start. And Jameis Winston, that's the biggest news of the week at quarterback remaining here. He will be starting here. Dorian Thompson-Robinson will be his backup. I love it. I love just juicy Jameis slinging that thing all over the place. And actually, if you are desperate at QB, I'm telling you, I think Jameis having +5 ECR, I think he's a great sneaky stream. The Ravens are giving up the second most adjusted fantasy points per game. The Browns are 8.5-point dogs. Just everything scripted up there for Jameis Winston, who isn't all that far removed from a 5,000-yard, 30-touchdown, 30 interception, beautiful disaster, an absolute train wreck. That was fun to watch. I can't wait for him to back. I know he's not quite that reckless, just slinging the thing all over the place. But in his brief glimpses, even last week, in about a quarter and a half of action, throws a touchdown, drives down the field, gets a 2-point conversion as well. It was just Jameis is back, and it feels good. So I'm excited. I think he's going to be a great play. That's where I'm building a lot of my DraftKings lineups out of, is stacking this Browns passing game. If you have a David Njoku, if you have even Cedric Tillman, we're going to talk about in a little bit, definitely some hope. It's been a while since you've had hope for your Browns pass catchers here. And Jameis at the helm, you have it now. So that's what I love at QB. Moving on to running back, not nearly as many Nuggets at running back this week, which is good. Taylor is active after missing the past few weeks. He is going to be playing, practiced in full back-to-back days. You should have no concerns. They took it slow with him in the ankle injury. So I imagine he'll probably see his usual 18-ish carries that he was averaging. Texans, good front seven, but not incredible. So, yeah, you're playing Taylor. You're playing Taylor if you have him. No doubt about it. Speaking of studs, Christian McCaffrey expected to play in week 10, folks. The bye will be this week. That's kind of what the whole season has been about, but it's just great to finally get some positive news. You're gonna actually get your guy, the dude that averaged over 20 fantasy points in 70% of his games since joining the 49ers. It's absolutely insane what this type of weapon can do for you if you somehow can still buy low. I know I talked about this on the mid-season show this Wednesday. Definitely highly encourage any of you out there. It's still very, very applicable. Lots of who could blow up for the rest of season candidates. Check those clips or check the full show out. I think it was a phenomenal one with lots of good insight in it. But Christian McCaffrey, of course, led that way in terms of who's done much but could blow up. Yeah. There's nobody better to potentially do that than Christian McCaffrey. So hopefully you stayed alive if you haven't. And if you have some sort of shot at buying this guy ahead of kickoff today, the owner can't get through the bye in week 8. Do what you can to get this guy because he's coming back. And maybe it's a risk. Maybe it flares up and he's done for the year. Or maybe you get the best player in fantasy football for your final stretch run. I'm buying where I can, and I'm holding for sure where I still have him. We got Todd Bowles saying Bucky Irving's going to play. It's a mess. It's a 3-headed nightmare. But as I wait for Christian McCaffrey, who we just spoke about, Bucky Irving's been my kind of rock solid fill him in. He's got over 15 in back-to-back weeks, even in this committee. He was kind of the lead back. I know Rashad White put up over 20 points, the lead pass catching back here. But Bucky is still steadily involved. It was Sean Tucker taking the distant third role. Still involved, though. Still annoying. It's still, I don't have to trust this backfield. I wouldn't. But ultimately, with the wide receiver injuries all around the Bucs, I could see the running backs becoming a much bigger focal point of their game plan here against the Falcons. We're still tracking news on Travis Etienne, a game-time decision. He got limited practices in all week, but as we know, last week, that meant nothing. He practiced limited every single day and then ultimately got ruled out. I'm not playing Etienne either way. This isn't really about him. It's about Tank Bigsby and if we can trust him after a 25-point day. If Etienne's in, we've already had Doug Peterson mentioning, like, I don't believe in people losing their starting jobs because of injury and decrepit coach. I can't stand Doug Peterson. Can't wait to see him get fired. Not that I think Trevor Lawrence is that good or savable, or maybe he is, but not a believer in really anything in Jacksonville other than Tank Bigsby when Travis Etienne out. As if he's out, I will definitely be happy to roll Bigsby. We do know he is game flow dependent. I believe he has all of 3 targets on the year, Tank Bigsby, and they could get game flowed out pretty quickly against the Packers. So Bigsby's not nearly the smash he was when he was facing the Patriots, when game flow was going to be on his side the entire time, but he still would be a feature back, and it's not a great run defense over there for the Packers. So if Etienne's out, we play Bigsby, and if Etienne's in, I don't touch either running back at all. Tajay Spears downgraded to out, so another Tony Pollard, 90% of the snaps, 88% of the rush attempts. No, it didn't go incredible against the Bills in terms of final production there, but the usage was as good as you could ask for. So I know it's not a great matchup against the Lions, but I have a hard time benching Tony Pollard where I have. Let us know if you do have a question, but very rare to find a true workhorse of this nature in today's NFL. Jonathan Brooks is doubtful, actually downgraded out as of last night against the Broncos. So Chuba Hubbard will continue to get that workload, but ultimately, does it matter when Bryce Young is the QB? I have no interest in playing any Panthers. There's not going to be any, Deontay Johnson. The only thing I want in this game is anybody on the Broncos, and in particular, the defense. I think the Denver Broncos defense is going to absolutely smother this team. So I'm talking like 25-point day I'm hoping for here. Bryce Young and no weapons. How could it not be an absolute bloodbath? We have Mike McCarthy also saying that Dalvin Cook in position to play this week to get activated, took first-team reps. Not all the first-team reps or anything like that, but did get mixed in there. And it's not like Dowdle or Ezekiel have managed a huge stranglehold on the position by any means. Now, I don't know that Dalvin Cook has anything left in the tank. He's averaged 3.2 yards per carry last year and looked very cooked whenever we did see him. But hey, he did force a decent amount of missed tackles while he was out there. And can it be that much worse than what the Cowboys have? I don't know. So if you got bench space, I would add this guy. Now, there are 3 wide receivers I'm going to talk about that I think are well worth your bench consideration, way ahead of Dalvin Cook. I think they're really true. And I wrote the article on the website, so if you want a full in-depth breakdown of these wide receivers, but I do think there's 3 guys still out there in over half of leagues that have not just week 8 upside, but massive like stretch run, season-long potential. So those are the guys I would go to over Dalvin Cook. But hey, you can do worse if he is out there. Those good receivers are gone, and you just need to stash somebody on the bench. I'd like to see what he does this week, so we'll find out. And then Keaton Mitchell, another guy that you could potentially stash. He's out this week, but did practice limited all week. We've seen how explosive this run game is. Does look like Justice Hill would be the clear-cut backup to Derrick Henry. But, I mean, we're talking about like Devon Achane levels of speed and explosive and efficiency last year for Keaton Mitchell when he was out there. It was electric. So maybe not the worst stash in deeper leagues, especially if you can still slide him into those IR spots as well. That wraps up the running back news. It does look like we have yet another super chat. My man, Omar, thank you so much consistently supporting your boy here. Thank you, brother. I really, really appreciate it. Need one flex, the bad toe, Bucky. I'm not worried about the toe. If it was that bad, he wouldn't be playing. There was that weird quote that Bowles had, like he's always had bad toes his whole life. No clue what it means, but hey, I'm not really factoring this bad toe in myself. Let's dive into the other options though. Wicks, Tillman, or Kirk, full PPR. And then he adds in, looking doubtful per latest reports. Thanks a lot. So that's Etienne as well. Thank you so much there, Omar, for adding in that little nugget. So it does sound like Tank Bigsby is in play this week. I have him. I ranked him as if we were going to have no Etienne. I kind of expected this. So with him doubtful, I would have no real changement in the rankings that I have over at rotostreetjournal.com for Tank Bigsby. I'm at running back 25 right now, just ahead of Chase Brown as of right now, just below Tony Pollard, Javonte Williams, Alvin Kamara, etc. So that's where Tank Bigsby slides into my rankings. In terms of your flex dilemma here, Omar, this is a tough one. I because it's full PPR, I'm probably going to take a stab at one of these receivers. I like Bucky. I think he's probably going to get his usual 12 to 15. It is a tough matchup, though. The Falcons giving up the fourth fewest points to running backs. It's a three-headed nightmare. Like I said, I have to start Bucky, but you have good enough options. Like I don't. My running back situation is dreadful. Like it's either him or Tyron Tracy for me, Omar. Let me know what you think of that one, Omar, and anybody else out there. Tyron Tracy versus Bucky Irving for my running back 2 spot. But I'm going to go with one of these receivers. And to me, I'm not going to go Kirk. That's just been an absolute nightmare of a roller coaster all year. Green Bay does have good secondary, very opportunistic. So I'm leaning – it comes down to Tillman or Wicks for me. So I hate to ever do the hedge. And not that either of these guys are truly safe. I lean Tillman here. Unless you are like a 20-point underdog, because Wicks, you said 14 catches on the air and 4 of them are touchdowns. Blow-up potential with Wicks in the best possible matchup for wide receivers, for passing games. The Jags are abysmal. So if only Christian Watson was out, I'd probably have Wicks in my top 25 wide receivers this week. But him and Christian Watson continue to rotate at about a 50-50 pace, and that just makes it so tough to trust Wicks. Meanwhile, we got Tillman getting a 31% first read target share, 12 total looks last week. We have an 8.5 over-under. We have Jameis Winston now slinging the rock, baby. There is, what if it's a connection instead with Jerry Jeudy? David Njoku is about to get his. So it's not a guarantee that Tillman's the guy, but they sure schemed him to be the guy last week, and he really delivered, did Tillman. 8 catches, 80 yards. So I'm going to lean Cedric Tillman. They're giving up the second most adjusted points to quarterbacks and wide receivers are the Baltimore Ravens. So if he is the guy, if he gets the usage that he got last week, not a guarantee, but if he does, and it comes from Jameis Winston, we could be talking about 100 yards, a touchdown, 10 catches. That upside exists with Tillman. And so I'm going to roll that one out, Omar. Plus, you got the Browns love over there. So you get to root for your boys a little bit. I like it. I like Tillman a lot. He's one of my favorite sleepers this week. So it comes down to him or Wicks for me. And especially in PPR where like that volume could become even more important, I like going Dontavian Wicks myself. Thank you so much to Super Chat. And again, noting that Travis Etienne is a long shot, if not ruled out at this point already. All righty, Omar. And Dynasty Dumpster Fire, I see your comment on there. I do answer all the questions. I just go through all the news beforehand just because it does help out in terms of informing what type of questions to ask. If there's guys that you might not have been thinking about because of the injuries and whatnot, I just want to make sure all the info is out there. But yes, I will be answering every question we get. Super Chats do get to cut the line, though. So as I get through this news, and I only have about probably 5 more, 10 minutes at most of news here to get through, and then it'll be on to all the questions. But if you guys would like to cut the line, you guys know the way to do that is that Super Chat. But the freeway, with almost 600 of you already here, and we're not even 30 minutes in, is that thumbs up button, is that heart button, is the retweet, the shares, all that stuff to help your boy get out there. It is so greatly appreciated. Thank you again, guys. We are now on the receiver news, and this is where there is more news and nuggets, so we'll get through this real quick. Tyreek Hill, questionable, is expected to play, though, and with his boy Tua back. It sounds like it was something minor, just a little flare-up in practice. You're, of course, getting Tyreek Hill. He's averaged over 22 fantasy points per game with Tua at QB, around a 30% target share. It's beautiful. It's awesome. And he's only 7,000 on DraftKings, too. It's absolutely bananas. DK Metcalf is doubtful, unlikely to play. I think this brews up the spot of no more excuses for JSN. I know the secondary is tough for the Bills, but hey, your role doesn't expand if you don't grow, if your target share isn't more diverse and more plentiful this week, Mr. Jackson Smith-Njigba. I might send him to waivers just to send a message to the locker room. I cannot stand him so far this year. I only have him on one league. It was an auction draft. I got him for cheaper than I expected him to go. Just kind of landed in the roster. And I keep seeing 10 targets, 9 targets, 11. And then I see like 2.058. It's just like, all right, this is the week, JSN. You can get vertical. You have the skill set. It's on the play calling too, but he also doesn't go for ball. This is not a JSN rant show, but this is the time. You either do it or you don't. Today, JSN, and it's probably going to be Tyler Lockett. That just goes bananas. We shall see. Deebo Samuel was listed as questionable, but he is expected to play, according to Adam Schefter late last night, saying that despite the wrist injury and illness, he is expected to go, as is George Kittle in that game. We do know Juwan Jennings is not playing, however, so this does open up the door for Ricky Pearsall If Deebo was out, it would be potentially a smash spot. But even without him, I'm plus 10 ECR right now on Ricky Pearsall. First round pick, getting a luxury pick out of the 49ers, despite them having Ayuk and Deebo. And now you see why, with the depth becoming ever important with the Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings injuries so far. Of course, Ayuk's being season ending. Juwan Jennings just a week or two here. But Pearsall's going to get his chances. He led the team in routes last week as well. Didn't do a whole ton. 3 catches, 21 yards. Okay, whatever. But it was his first time playing, and he got, remember, shot this preseason. It's crazy that the healthiest wide receiver on this team was somebody who got shot this preseason. But what a beast. What a locker room presence, too, giving you your teammates, his teammates in your fantasy locker room, the message, like, you better step up. I got shot. What about you? Type of guy. So I do like playing him, though. He's a top 40 wide receiver for me if you are desperate. The Cowboys defense has been giving up the second most points just in general, 28 points per game they've surrendered. And they've been a top 10 in schedule-adjusted points to wide receivers as well. So I think Ricky Pearsall in play despite both Deebo and George Kittle being active. The only other big news to break today that we're tracking is T. Higgins' status. Does seem like there's some pessimism around him. And by the time I've said this, there might be more official note that he is officially ruled out, but it does not sound like it's trending the right way for T. Higgins. And with him kind of wanting that contract, is he really going to play through something like this? I doubt it. He did not earlier in the year, which is pretty impactful. He actually leads this team in target over the past 3 weeks. He's seen more than Jamar Chase over the last 3 games, and in the games they played together, T. Higgins has been the number 1 target. So this does open up some volume. Andre Yoshevich becomes a potential flex if you guys are looking for wide receiver streamers. I do prefer Tillman. I do prefer Pearsall. I do prefer one other guy we will be talking about in just a little bit. Who's my number 1 streamer of the week and number 1 just overall waiver wire ad. We talked about him on Tuesday, so we'll get there. But other than that, we do have Zay Flowers expected to play. According to Schefter, we have Chris Olave removed from the injury report and playing. He's my wide receiver, Chris Olave, wide receiver 29. He's 28. He's definitely playable, but not somebody I have to get in my lineups by any means. Whereas Flowers, I actually think this game is going to be a fun one. And I think Flowers is right back in the conversation despite this week because of that. But it also, how do you bench him? The only way it does get tough because they do get so run heavy, the Ravens, when they are up big, and they sure could get up big against the Browns. But I do hope and think that Jameis Winston keeps this one competitive. It does make Rashad Bateman, who is a popular sleeper for a lot of people this week. Like, I'd rather have Tillman at this point than Rashad Bateman. So yeah, he's still a top 45 play for me is Rashad Bateman, but ultimately I'd rather play Tillman today. I'm just making sure my rankings have Tillman ahead of Wicks. Because I know I answered that way, and I do not at the moment. So let me change that up, and boom. And I'm going to put Tillman above Ricky Pearsall. I like Pearsall, but I like Tillman just a little bit more today. Maybe I'm crazy, but I really like Tillman today. Browns love, baby. Let's go. Then the last few nuggets here. Deontay Johnson has been ruled out yet again. Emphasizing that Denver's defense is going to go nutty today, or they should. They do get Patrick Surtain back, and I don't even know who's going to have to cover. But you should not be playing any Panthers, including Chuba Hubbard, in my opinion. As good as he's been with Andy Dalton, I do not trust anyone with Bryce Young and all these weapons out on this team. We also have Jakobi Meyers. I wonder if they're holding him out too. The rumblings are they don't want him to get hurt because they do want to trade him. I'd love to see Deontay Johnson go to like the Bucks, for example. That would be insane. But all the rumbling is that Deontay and Christian Kirk are some names getting tossed around trade talks right now, according to Adam Schefter. Jakobi Meyers expected back. Remember, this guy did see nearly 20 targets in his 2 games without Devontae Adams before he suffered his own injury, did Jakobi Meyers, but very capable of being the main vein. This attack maybe eats into the workload for Bowers a little bit, but Bowers is just an absolute smash, the clear number 1 tight end play. Best matchup for tight ends today. I still think he is another guy for 12 to 20 targets any given week, including this week. I think he's going to eat. Calvin Ridley removed from the injury report and will play. Yay. Maybe he'll get 13 targets today, and they'll be early enough for his liking today. Oh, I didn't get him early enough in the game. That's why. Okay. Sounds good, Calvin. Here's 15 targets for 2 catches and 12 yards. Dude's an absolute tool. Quentin Johnson is doubtful for week 8. oh no. Same with Jet. These are kind of like, oh, well, okay. Alan Lazard's game time decision, okay. And then Curtis Samuel's out. But that does open up Curtis Samuel being out, a little more burn for Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir, of course, already in there. And then maybe Amari Cooper, after only playing 34% of the routes, gets that bumped up, possibly a full-time role this week. Who knows? That wraps up the receivers, which was by far the most loaded news section. In terms of tight ends, just George Kittle's going to be in. The only guy ahead of him for me is Brock Bowers at this point. Smash George Kittle every single week, especially now with no Ayuk. We have Dallas Goedert out. If you really are desperate, maybe Grant Calcaterra is out there for you. I think we can do better than Grant Calcaterra, folks. Evan Ingram was removed from the injury report and will play. He has seen 15 targets in his first 2 weeks back, and he's caught every single one of them. So definitely a potential play this week is Evan Ingram. Taysom Hill off the injury report. He is going to play. And that actually matters because at tight end, if you're that desperate where you're looking in that range, I'll go for the guy that does have a history of multiple 2+ touchdown games. You're going for boom or bust. Go for the one that really can boom when you're looking in that range. And last but not least is Will Dissly. He will be he's questionable, but he's coming off an 8-target day, 81 yards, 8 catches, a big day for Will Dissly last week. And we know that Greg Roman has loved to hit his tight end. So if we see another week out of Will Dissly, a guy to watch in your deep leagues if you need a tight end. A couple quick defensive notes, and that's on to all of your questions. Thanks again so much for being here, guys. Just Joey Bosa is questionable for the Chargers, as he always is. Micah Parsons is not playing tonight against the 49ers, and Deron Bland is also sitting out, so bump up some 49ers there. We did have Brian Burns get removed from the injury report, an elite pass rusher for the 2-5 Giants, so he must be good to go. So Jedrick Wills is not playing against the Ravens. Would have been nice to have that blindside protection for Jameis, but hey, beggars can't be choosers, I guess. And then Hassan Reddick is going to make his debut today for the Jets, the circus act that is the Jets this year. Alrighty, guys, that wraps up all of the news for us. But thank you again so much for your patience as we're going through that. It is now on to all of your questions. 700 of you here. Thank you again so much for spending your week 8 morning with me. These rankings will all be at rotostreetjournal.com, as are my article on the 3 best wide receiver sleepers. I mentioned Cedric Tillman as one of them. That's one guy that I want to again emphasize, a 31% first read target share this past week. 12 targets, 8 catches, 81 yards, and now gets Jameis Winston, who that season, again, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, 5,000 yards. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin were both top 2. Wide receiver 2 was Chris Godwin. Wide receiver 3 was Mike Evans in fantasy points per game. So we know that Jameis can facilitate some real pass production. And last year, just for this is a crazy stat. My man Scott Barrett tossed this out on his podcast earlier this week. The Browns last year with Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper, wide receiver 1. Joe Flacco himself, QB 2. And then David Njoku was tight end 1, would have been wide receiver 3 in fantasy points per game for those 3 guys from week 14 on when Joe Flacco took over as QB. So it's not like the Browns passing game has never shown signs of life. It's just that they've been completely deflated every time they've had to play Deshaun Watson. But again, Jameis Winston, I think he can do his best Joe Flacco impression here. And with the new play caller over there, Ken Dorsey, who's been the OC all year but hasn't been the actual play caller, he's always averaged a ton of pass attempts, 36 per game with the Bills. So I do think this is going to be a pass-happy attack, and I think Jameis Winston's going to be slinging, and they're going to need to, given that 8.5 spread, given the Ravens a pass-funnel defense without Marlon Humphreys today, too. I'm playing a lot of Browns in the DFS and in my regular season lineups. Let's go Brownies. Let's go Cedric Tillman, Jameis Winston, David Njoku, maybe Jerry Jeudy, who did see the first 3 out of 5 targets from Jameis and didn't do anything with him. And then they went to Tillman and he performed. So we'll see how that goes. We talked about Ricky Pearsall again as a potential sleeper, so we don't need to belabor that. But the other one I wanted to mention, one of the cover boys of today, and somebody I'm seeing in the questions quite a bit. I've been getting a lot of questions on Twitter, so wanted to at least just address Jalen McMillan from the jump. He is my number 1 of these wide receivers, both to stream and to stash off the waiver wire. We know that Jalen McMillan, all preseason, so much hype. He's got the dog in him. He talked about how he worked with Baker Mayfield for hours and hours after practice because he wanted, quote, Baker to trust me with everything that he has. This was in the summer. He quickly got elevated to that number 3 wide receiver. had only run when he was healthy, Jalen McMillan, one fewer route than Chris Godwin. He was an every down player. He was the clear number 3 guy behind, of course, Mike Evans and Godwin. Now Evans and Godwin are both out. I guess Liam Cohen apparently pulled McMillan aside this week at practice and said, we need you. This is your time. This is the week. Show us you can step up. So if anybody here is going to emerge as that true number 1 into that Chris Godwin, like Cooper Kupp inspired role, because remember, Liam Cohen comes from the Rams here. Jalen McMillan, definitely the best bet to do it. Played 67% of his snaps in college from the slot, averaged 2.4 yards per route run, significantly more than Jalen Polk, who got drafted ahead of him, his teammate over there from Washington. So McMillan's a baller. I think this guy can play, and he's going to be getting that fantasy-friendly role. And Baker Mayfield, we've already seen him facilitate monster numbers this year for his wide receivers. Again, of course, the wide receiver talent plays a big role in that, and then those guys having monster days. The Bucs 4th in total points right now. Baker Mayfield, the QB2. Like this guy, Jalen McMillan, the table is set. The offense is good. The quarterback play is good. The role, we know, can be very fruitful as long as Jalen McMillan is talented enough to handle it. But he's going to be given the first crack at being that true number 1 in this offense. And I can't wait to see what he does. I'm excited to play him this week. I'm excited to see him moving forward in the future weeks as well. So that would be my number 1 sleeper ad of the week. So just wanted to toss those ones out there in case that helps you think of your questions or if it changes what you're asking at all. All right, guys, on to all those questions. If you do need to get in and out, the rest of the show will be your questions, 8:40, so another hour and a half or so of questions for you. Please consider to support gets on and cut the line yourself if you are in a rush. Otherwise, let's do it. Chubb and Ladd on the bench. Reed and Flex, should I keep him there? Absolutely. Jayden Reed, an absolute beast. With Jayden Reed with Jordan Love has averaged over 20 fantasy points per game. I know the last couple of weeks have been sketchy, especially last week, but you get the Jags, the best matchup for wide receivers. There's no way I'm benching Jayden Reed this week. Marvin Harrison on the bench in a 2-flex league. David Njoku and Robinson. I like that. I actually played David Njoku over Marvin Harrison. Who would have thought this time of the year, Joel? But I agree with the moves you got. Superflex, Otten or Laporta. I got to go Otten, which is nuts. Absolutely insane that Cade Otten is a no-brainer for me here in this one. But you saw it last week, 10 targets, 8 catches right off the bat. Like if it's not going to be McMillan, it very well could be Otten taking over that massive role there. And then we got, is Tillman or Coleman worth starting over Keenan Allen in the same super flex league? I'd probably play Keenan. Good matchup against the Commanders. Now that Daniels is playing, Caleb Williams is probably going to get pushed a bit more. It's not like the Bears can just get up big and bleed the clock. Keenan Allen, the last game out, 2 touchdowns, right? So I think those two have a nice rapport. Tillman's really tempting me right here, Joel, but I'm going to go Keenan Allen for this one. Very close, though. Very, very close. And then Lucio asking, Mason or Neighbors? Ooh, that's a pretty tough one. I think so. I'm gonna go more Mason here. One, it's probably his last start, so you know he's going to be motivated. Let me ball out. Let me show what I can do in my final start of the year. 2, the Cowboys, a beautiful matchup. Your top 5 in points allowed. 2 running backs this year, and it's so much safer. You're going to probably get 15 to 20 plus touches for Mason, no matter what. Now, Neighbors, I mean, it's so hard to bench Neighbors, right? Averaging nearly 15 targets a game. But Daniel Jones looked really, really bad last week. In particular, what worries me is not as bad as Daniel Jones looked, how bad the offensive line, Andrew Thomas's first game out, and Daniel Jones 8 sacks. You know, he was under pressure all day. It was back to last year where there was literally no time for him to throw. That worries me about Neighbors and everybody else in this passing game for sure. And it ends up being a bit more of the Wan'Dale experience when he can't throw just dink, 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 and dunk. So Neighbors does worry me. I do love the fact that, you know, he said, I was open. Yeah, throw it to me. The coach came out and said, he's right. He was open. Your squeaky wheel narrative, let him get greased. But is this offense capable of even greasing him this week? We shall see. But when I'm not benching Neighbors in most situations, but when I have someone as good as Jordan Mason, yeah, I probably will go with Mason. Man, that's a tough one, Lucio. Great options. What's up, Giuseppe? Good morning. Let's get this dub. Devontae Adams or Amari Cooper. That's a pretty good one, Giuseppe. Because I look at it and I see Amari Cooper get only 34% of the routes, and he ultimately scores 16 fantasy points on just that. Seahawks secondary banged up. I don't believe Reek Woolen is playing today. Not that it would really change that much for me, individual corners like that, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have their best secondary member out. So I love Amari Cooper, but Aaron Rodgers is trying to get Davante Adams a touchdown today, and they're going to move the ball with ease on the Patriots. And once they get inside that 5-yard line, I wouldn't be surprised if they threw 3 straight balls to Davante Adams if they need to. They're going to get him a touchdown today. So the floor is definitely higher with Adams. I do lean Amari Cooper, though, just very, very slightly myself. I had to check. I had to peek at my rankings. I don't like to do that during the show, but I just want to make sure my gut isn't way off and I had one of these guys higher than the others. And I have Cooper 17, Davante Adams 18. So second time we've already got a back-to-back in the rankings in the questions here. But I do have Cooper higher, so my gut was leaning where it's true, but love both those guys this week, Giuseppe. Monty or Chuba? Definitely Monty. I am not touching Chuba this week. Very worried about all of my Panthers. I do not want to start any of them. I don't have any leagues other than Chuba, maybe one. I'm not playing him. Jayden Daniels or Kyler Murray? Definitely Jayden Daniels for me. If he's in your lineup. Let it rip. Zubat Slayer. Good morning. Half PPR Bucky or Tracy? Zubat, I am deciding the same thing, and it's torture for me. I keep going back and forth. I see Tracy with 70% of the snaps last week. That is looking great. That's gorgeous. Happy to see it. But I also see 6 points and just the overall ineptitude of that line, of that offense. And that scares me. Scares me quite bad in Pittsburgh. Obviously not a great spot to go. So I think I am leaning Bucky Irving. I know it's more of a timeshare, but he has just been rock solid, steady, more involved around the goal line area. So I'm going to go Bucky. What's up, E? Who do I flex? Waddle, Pollard, Keon Coleman, Tank Bigsby, or D-Hop? I got to go Waddle with Tua back, Arizona, bad secondary. Let's light this thing up. It comes down to me that these are the ones I would really be considering here. Bigsby, Waddle, or Pollard. That's who I would limit this choice to. Pollard in a tough matchup, though. He's going to be seeing all the work, but we saw that last week. You saw the work, and it was 8 points. Tank Bigsby, 25 points last week. I just think he's at a big risk of getting game flowed out of here. And I'm going to go Waddle. I just have faith that Tua comes back, slings this thing around. Maybe it all goes to Tyreek, and that's the risk here. It's tough. That is a very, very tough one between Bigsby and Waddle. I probably, though, pulled the trigger on Waddle. Very, very tough, though, especially though PPR, you get a little bonus there. We know Bigsby's giving you no benefit in PPR, so that can kind of be the tiebreaker in the full PPR setting there. Krana Shaw, hope Jayden plays today. I know, definitely a rookie-on-rookie duel. Super excited for that game as well, Krana. Should be a very fun one today. Keenan Allen, Worthy or Shakir? I would be benching Worthy here, just so up or down right now. And I think D-Hop is going to take over that kind of main vein type of quick dink and dunk roll. Flex 2 PPR, McMillan, Chase Brown, Muth. I'm benching Muth in that one, Krana. Deebo or Pickens? I'm going to play Deebo. I know I'm probably in the minority there, but I love Deebo. Flowers or JSN? I'm definitely going Flowers. I know JSN has the elevated role today. I do not trust that guy if I don't have to. I unfortunately have to myself. Javonte or Waddle? Flex PPR. Oh, man. I would probably go Javonte in this case. That Carolina matchup is so juicy. They are giving up the second most points to running backs, and we know this team is just going to destroy them. So that is where I would lean. I'd go Javonte there. Senor Rojo coming out with a $2 super chat. Thank you so much for your support, Mr. Rojo. Need 2 flex PPR. Chase Brown, Xavier Worthy, Keon, or Pearsall. I would definitely go Chase Brown. That's the easy lock here. Taking over slowly but surely that backfield role. It seems like Zach Moss has been relegated to the pass protection type situations and maybe a handful of change of pace snaps, but Chase Brown's the guy now. And Eagles not the best matchup for running back, certainly a scary defense, but Brown's the nice type of running back start where one, he does get goal line volume. He definitely can cap off those scoring drives, and it's a bad secondary. So as long as they're moving the ball through the air, we have touchdown equity there. And Chase Brown also has the ability to just score from any place on the field. So rip off a 50-yard touchdown. Not the backs can do that, but Chase Brown can. And so I love Chase Brown, love starting him this week, love his rest of season outlook as he continues to take over that backfield. In terms of the rest of these guys, I think I go Worthy. It's tough. Pearsall's very much calling my name in this question too. But with Deebo and Kittle in, probably the third here. And there's room for the third to eat. But, I mean, we weren't even seeing Brendan Ayuk eat that much in the third role. Never mind, is Ricky Pearsall going to be good enough to do it? A stream I like, but don't love. So I do lean Xavier Worthy with this one. I don't love the boomer bust nature to his game, but the booms are great. And we know he's got the speed and, we know that role continues to grow. Hopkins will eat into it, but that's a tough offense to get fully acclimated to in 1 week. So I wouldn't be shocked to see Xavier Worthy get another 8 to 10 targets this week, and it's against the Raiders. There's nothing scary about that. So I'm going to go Chase Brown and Xavier Worthy, Mr. Rojo. Thank you so much for your super chat, for your support of the stream. And then we had left off over – I got to start marking the time when I go over to the super chats so I don't lose my spot. But we had Javonte or Waddle, and then Krana's last question, Kraft or Otten. I go Tucker Kraft, but very close. Cade Otten is a target hog here. And then we've got Reed or DJ Moore. It is 100% Jayden Reed for me, even though DJ Moore also in a good spot, could have himself a big day. B-Rob or Pollard, definitely B-Rob for me, especially, again, with Jayden Daniels in. It'd be a huge boost to this entire offense. And then Monty or Dobbins. Ooh, that is a good one. I'm going to lean Dobbins. Third most touches in the running back position across his last 4 weeks. Really just been feasting 80% of the snaps and touches. And I love Monty, but he took that back seat last week. So consistent, you're probably going to get your touchdown. But even still, I do lean going J.K. Dobbins. New Orleans has been getting manhandled on the ground. Absolutely pathetic. The most points to running backs across the last 3 weeks, getting blown off the ball. And so I do like the Chargers just to pound this one down their throat. My man, BK, thank you so much for your generous $10 support of your boy. You're the man. Thank you so much. We got Gino, Bo, or Kirko Chains. I am leaning Chains here. BK, it's tricky. The last time these two teams met, he threw for 500 yards. And I know it's not that simple. The Bucs don't have the firepower, the explosives that allowed that type of eruption, the point eruption on both sides. So I know they're not going to get pushed as hard, and that does play into this. And when they have a lead or are in neutral situations, the Falcons are among the run-heaviest teams. That's scary, and the fact that Kirk really only has that one game on his resume scares me too. But we do know he can manhandle this defense. He has already. All quarterbacks are destroying the Bucs defense this year. So I am leaning Kirk as the safer option. I look at Geno, no DK, against a really good secondary for the Bills. Don't love that. Bo is the one that's like, that doesn't intrigue me. He's averaging right now right around 50 rush yards per game. He's on pace for almost 700 rush yards on the season, which is absolutely madness. You knew he was mobile and could move in the pocket. I did not expect him to be a Konami code, but he is. He's above Kyler Murray in his rushing so far this year. So I think you do like Bo. They're going to destroy the Panthers. My thing with him, though, is like, do they even get pushed enough that he truly matters? Like, I could see Javonte scoring 3 touchdowns. I could see Audric Estime pounding in for one, and Bo moves the offense. They score their 26 points, the 4th highest, thank you, implied team total. But ultimately, they don't. Bo isn't the one capping off the drives at the end of the thing. So I think Kirk has the best chance of, like, I think Baker is getting underrated right now. I think they can still push this team. It might not be a 66-point explosion like the last time these two teams met, but I think a 280-yard, half of what he threw last time and a couple touchdowns, well within the play for Kirko this week. So I'm gonna go Kirko, the chains here. BK, let me know who you go. Hopefully we'll nail this one for you. I owe you a big one after letting you down on a couple of these super chats. But the fact that you keep coming back and supporting your boy means so much, BK. I really, really appreciate it. I hope I get this one right for you. Let me know which way you were leaning. To me, I do limit it to Kirk or Bo. I'm not going to go him, but I will just also toss out Jameis, famous Jameis, baby, in that matchup. But I'd still go Kirk ahead of him if I had the choice between those two. All righty. And then we had Mr. Russo saying to pick 2 running backs here. Thank you again, BK. Very, very generous of you for that super chat. Javonte Williams, Chase Brown, Rashad White, or Dowdle. I'll go the first 2 there. Just happy. Mr. Williams smash play today against Carolina, and then Chase Brown continues to take over that backfield like we were talking about. Then we got Olave, MHJ, or Bateman in a full PPR. I would lean Olave for this one. MHJ is so tough to trust right now. 3 straight duds. Ugh, I don't know. Olave's not easy to trust. And Bateman, if Flowers was out, might have actually been the answer here, Krana. I don't know. Do you bench MHJ for Olave? Maybe I do just hope that game shoots out here. Tua back, pushing that team. They have to throw. They got to figure something out with MHJ. So I'm gonna go Marvin Harrison at that point because no car. It's like, do I really trust Olave? Probably not. So I'm going to go MHJ there. And then finally, Chiefs D or Chargers D. I go Chiefs D. I love both these guys. I think I have them at D4 and D5, but I do have the Chiefs just a little bit higher there. My man Campanelli doing the Lord's work out there. And over 1,000 of you out there watching. Thank you so much. I love to watch that number get hit, especially this early in the stream. 1,000 live viewers. So awesome to have you here. And a good time to give you the reminder that to like, to comment, that truly does help us out so much. And of course, any new people out there, we'd love to have you subscribe. We're climbing slowly but surely towards 5,000 and would love to have you be part of that. We are live, as Campanelli reminds you, 3 times a week for Waiver Wire Thursday, on Tuesday, Waiver Wire Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday sit starts. Let's go. Keep it going. Good morning, beautiful people, says Cap for Life. Good morning, beautiful soul yourself. McMillan or Dell? I would go take Dell. I do really like McMillan this week. I know I had that sleeper segment on him. Somebody I do really, really believe in. If Tank Dell can't do it this week, I will never recommend him again. Let's put it that way. Great match against the Colts. No Nico Collins. The volume will be there. They've given up so many big plays, are the Colts defense, and Dell just continues. Maybe that's why you need to bench him. I don't know, but he continues to barely miss this touchdown, have one hit his fingertips, have one just slightly overthrown. It's got to all connect at some point, right? I mean, he was automatic. He was wrecking fantasy last year. So, yeah, I go Dell, but, man, is it close. And Campanelli making sure to remind you guys, if you spam your question a million times, you'll be placed in timeout. He's got the admin powers over there, so don't mess with the bouncer, Mr. Campanelli. He'll toss you right out of the club if you're causing problems there in the chat. Pick 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Half PPR. MHJ, Ladd, Romeo, Dobbs, Wandale, Jakobi, Rashad White, Rico Dowdle for Mr. Giuseppe Russo. I'm going to go MHJ for the wide receiver. And I think I'm leaning Dobbs. I love the matchup against the Jags there. So I fire him up. 10 targets last week. Always leads this team consistently in routes and snaps and everything when he's out there. Dobbs is the man. So, yeah, I'm going to go MHJ and Dobbs there, Giuseppe. Dak or Kirk Cousins? I'm going Kirko, Tyler. Again, I think people are underselling the ability of that game to open up. I know – so I know I just muted myself by accident, hit the mic cord here, but we are back. Just okay. Thank you for your patience. So, yeah, I think that game is getting undersold in its ability to potentially shoot out Dak versus Kirk Cousins versus Baker. I think Baker can still keep that offense humming, even with the big guys out, not quite at the 30-plus point levels, 30 points in 5 to 7 games. Don't think we see that type of Bucs team, but I think it's going to be competent. I think they're going to still force Kirk Cousins into throwing. So, yeah, I love Kirk Cousins. 500 yards against this team last time out. I think he can get to 282 touchdowns or so. Early bird. Indeed, we are early over here at the Rose Street Journal. We love to get this in. We know this is before a lot of streams go live, so it's a good way to kind of have your coffee, ease yourself into the day. So let's do it. Thank you for being here with us, Mr. T. Jones, and hopefully you subscribe and enjoy the show early on Sundays every Sunday, 8 a.m. every Sunday. Start Hubbard or Chase Brown? I'm definitely going Chase Brown. As I continue to emphasize with Hubbard, I do not trust any of the Carolina Panthers this week. No interest, thank you. With a Bryce Young attack with no Deontay Johnson, I just want some Broncos in that game, and certainly I want the Broncos defense. So give me Chase Brown as he continues to take over that Bengals backfield. And then we got T. Jones saying pick 3 PPR, and we got excuse me, BTJ, B-Rob, Jalen McMillan, Ricky P, Cedric Tillman, D-Hop. BTJ and B-Rob are the clear two locks here. T. Jones, you probably knew that going into it, but I think those two are at least a few tiers above the rest of this pile. And you got some of my favorite sleepers in here. And I wrote an article about McMillan, Ricky P, and Cedric Tillman, all at rotostreetjournal.com. I would highly recommend anybody go check that one out if you're considering those three guys. I make the case for all three, T. So I do have Jalen McMillan the highest. But if you want to read more about all three of them and help inform your decision even more, go for it at rotostreetjournal.com. So I do have him the highest. I will say D-Hop is very, very intriguing, especially in a PPR league. Me and Mo debated this on our Wednesday mid-season show. I said D-Hop is the guy that, of all receivers, the obvious ones, Tyreek Hill, the Dolphins, in terms of mid-season turnaround. But I think D-Hop is going to fill that Rashee Rice role. I know he's not as nifty and speedy after the catch, but me and Mo were debating this at a pretty good length. Like, they don't ask you anything complicated. It's a quick slant. It's find the soft spot in the zone and sit and wait for Mahomes to find you. That's all they ask of that role. And Andy Reid's already come out and said, like, he can do the things that Juju and Rashee Rice were asked to do in terms of Hopkins. And if Juju, this is my whole argument, if Juju could have a 7-catch, 130-yard day, that's not a sign of Juju. That's how good this role is. You tell me D-Hop, one of the best wide receivers in all of football, can't do that. So I think D-Hop eventually, this isn't going to be a question. You're going to have BTJ and D-Hop, and you're not going to think twice. I do think, given this is his first week with the team, given it is a complicated offense overall, we just saw, Amari Cooper only 34% of the snaps when he got traded midweek to the Bills. I think something similar here with D-Hop where he only plays about half the snaps, but also Amari Cooper put up 16 points playing with a better quarterback. We could see D-Hop right off the bat just get right into the end zone. So he is very intriguing. He was not written in that article because he wasn't available in half of leagues like the other three guys. I think I'm going to go McMillan, though. If I had all these options, I would probably go McMillan. T. Jones is very close. It is very tough, but that's where I lean. My man Omar, let me get a quick swig of coffee and then answer this one for you. Oh, it's delicious iced coffee. Tua, Kyler. Thank you. Tua, Kyler, and Gino. I would go ranking these guys, Kyler, then Tua, then Gino. Gino, again, maybe I'm too low on him, but I just, without DK, against a very good Bills defense, secondary at least, they're limiting quarterbacks, bottom 5 points. I don't love Gino this week, whereas I'd rather target that Kyler versus Tua potential shootout here. And I do lean Kyler coming off, 2 of his last 3 games have been above 20 fantasy points. Seems to be running around a little bit more. I'm going to lean Kyler, especially because the Miami defense has been very generous to running quarterbacks. I lean him. But this is another one, Omar. I had to check the ranks. I want to make sure I reflect what I'm saying here. Kyler 14, Tua 15. They are neck and neck for me. I do think there's a little bit of a drop, though, from Kyler to Tua, just because Tua, one bad hit, what if he's done? You got to be worried. Like, how does he look? I'd rather, if I can wait and see it with Tua, I totally could see a 25-point blow up and like, okay, Tua's my QB the rest of the year. Thank you. Love to know it. But I could also see one bad hit and Tua's done, or, coming off the concussion, looks rusty. So not a complete and utter lock to be in my lineups this week. So I'll go with Kyler. So I rank them again, Kyler, then Tua, then Gino. We do have another super chat. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. G. Medina, thank you, sir. 1 half PPR this week. McBride or Kraft, new sub. Thanks. Hey, love to have you. Thanks so much for subscribing to the channel. Again, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, we are live answering your questions, trying to help you out the best we can for fantasy football over here. I do go McBride here. Miami, middle of the pack at defending tight ends. Nothing scary. They are good against wide receivers. You have Jalen Ramsey on the outside there. Solid overall locking down top receivers. They're very generous over the middle of the field, and I think McBride can do some real damage there today. He's my 3rd ranked tight end. I kind of want to bump David Njoku ahead of him with Jameis. I want to see how it goes. And I love Kraft. I mean, you're talking about McBride, my tight end 3. I'm +4 ECR on Kraft. I have him at tight end 5. They are very close to me. I totally get the temptation. And if you went that way, against the Jags, high upside, Jordan Love's probably throwing 5 touchdowns, and one of them is probably going to go Tucker Kraft's way. That touchdown catch last week, that was special. I love Kraft. I think he's a baller. The thing is it's just McBride is closer to the number 1 weapon in that offense, Whereas Kraft, any given week, might be number 5 in that offense. It just, the Packers are so up or down, inconsistent. You know somebody's going to eat every single week. It's just, who's it going to be? And it has been Kraft a lot lately. I do really like him, but I think McBride, you can bank on. They're going to get 8 targets this week. What's he going to do with them? We'll find out. I like him, though. I think McBride is getting slept on this week. My number 3 tight end, Kraft, my number 5. I really like them both. Best of luck, G. Medina. Thank you again so much for the support. Come on, B-Hop. My man BK, you do not have to keep super chat. You're so generous. I thank you so much. You're the man. That's all I'll say. You're more than happy to just text me, and I'm happy to help you too, BK. The super chats, though, are so greatly appreciated. You're the man. I mean, 2 of these in a show is so generous. You're a legend, brother. Thank you again so much. So generous. D-Hop or Yak Harlow, a.k.a. Blicky Pearsall. I haven't heard that one. That's pretty good, actually. Yak Harlow for Blicky Pearsall. That's good. He is a yak beast, too. So I'm excited to see what he does. Or Wicks. Really good question here from BK. A lot of interesting options here. We just talked about D-Hop at length. Just to reiterate and summarize, really do think he's capable of playing that Rashee Rice and then Juju and now D-Hop, that kind of dink and dunk, layup, Amon-Ra style role. I think D-Hop is very, very capable of that. I do question whether he can slide immediately right into that from the jump this year, this week, given his first week with the team. It could be closer, like a 50% snap share. I really could see it. Like if we get a report, I doubt we'll see something like this, but if you got something where it was like DeAndre Hopkins has assimilated so fast, you expected to play right from the jump a meaningful role. But maybe we flip this. But I would lean on this one. Man, and I love your take, BK, if you don't mind adding to the comments about Wicks and what to do with him, because I'm debating. You're the Green Bay guy, if I'm not mistaken, over there. And I have to pick either him or Kraft for my flex. I'm starting Njoku at tight end, and then I need to pick one of these Packers weapons. And I'm leaning Kraft right now. But like Wicks, it's so tempting. You know how bad the Jags are. The most points allowed to wide receivers, both just straight up and in schedule adjusted. It's a huge boost, like 10 points to their season-long average. This seems like a Wicks, like blow up, get deep. Maybe even he has 2 touchdowns. But they're just rotating so much with him and Christian Watson. It's not even close. 50-50 split, right? And it just sucks. Like a part-time wide receiver. What if they get up huge early and then they just start bleeding it out with Jacobs? And if Wicks hasn't caught his touchdown by the third quarter, is he even going to be in anymore? Or they run blocking the rest of the day? Like that's the risk with Wicks. So much upside. Definitely the highest ceiling of any of the 3 that you're asking about here. But also the biggest risk to be like 2 catches, 10 yards. Maybe even 0, whereas Yak Harlow, still love that one. I'm very excited to see what he does tonight, especially if Deebo ends up being more limited than people expect. If Deebo's, doesn't have his full, he had pneumonia, hospitalized for pneumonia just a week ago. I can't imagine he's at full strength, full wind. Like I think we're going to see Yak Harlow, Blicky Pearsall end up leading this team in routes. And again, the Cowboys, not a good defense. 28 total points allowed per game. That is second most in the league so far this year. Very middling secondary. No Bland playing at all today. They're giving up the 10th most scheduled adjusted points to wide receivers. Think of these 3 options. I do lean Ricky Pearsall. I do. It's close though. I mean, they're all the same tier for me. They're all within 2 to 3 spots. Diop keeps tempting me. I'm just he's a smash. He's with the Chiefs. He's going to play the Juju role. He's a smart veteran receiver. He knows how to do it right from the jump. But I want to see him have that role before I use him. I just know it's going to be very frustrating to wait and see it. And then he just goes absolutely bananas type of situation. I'm going to go Pearsall. Final answer there, BK. Thank you again. So generous of you. But let me know too, BK, whether you put it in the comments or text me what you're doing with these Packers. I have to choose between Wicks and Kraft, and I keep flip-flopping them back and forth in my flex there. I don't know what to do. We did get a super chat from Mayank Doobie, which does not have the text, but I'm going to see if my man Campanelli found that one. Does not look like he has quite yet. So if you can look for that, Dave, and try to find Mayank Doobie's question and put that in the private chat. Oh, no, he pulled it up for me here. So let me go back to the comments and find that. Whereabouts is that? So it doesn't. My screen is very small. I do not have a full screen, so I can't see when you just click it. It's easier if you put it in the comments, but if you don't mind, Campanelli, in the private chat, or I'll keep scrolling to try to find it here. You can leave it up on the screen too, but I can't find it. Sorry, I don't know where. You guys have a great amount of questions today. Let's go. But yeah, if you don't mind typing it into the chat there. So for 9:05 under the super chat is the time. All right, 9:05. There it is. All righty. Thank you, Campanelli. Thank you guys for your patience. McMillan or Pop Douglas from Mayank again with the super chat. Thank you so much for that. I would go McMillan myself. Again, I think he just slides. They're going to give him every chance. The table is completely set. They talked about Liam Cohen pulling him aside, saying, this is your time. We really need you. This is where you get to show what you can do. So much hype all preseason about him really putting in that extra time to work on the rapport, to get the trust of Baker Mayfield. And now they're going to need it. Now it's really going to need to show through. Now, I know he's had some drops. I know he's had some inconsistencies. Not a guarantee by any means, but they're going to give him the shot. And we've seen Mayfield playing at a very, very high level, the QB2 in fantasy right now, feeding Chris Godwin. And this is the role, 67% of the slot snaps in college, 2.5 yards, 2.4 rather yards per route run, 0.6 better than his teammate over there. I love it. I'm a huge fan here of Jalen McMillan. I think he's going to feast. And then Stephen Drake's asking, I just also don't love Pop Douglas against the Jets either, Mayank. So yeah, thank you again so much for the super chat. And thank you, Stephen Drake's consistently coming in and super chatting your boy. Mason or Etienne, half PPR, and would you trade Hall for Mixon? Great questions all around, Stephen Drake's. I would go Mason very, very slightly over Etienne. I'm so excited with Tua back. If we get that workload for Etienne, what he's been doing all year, especially lately, he's right around 60% of the workload, 60% of the snaps. If you told us that like going into the year and Tua was healthy, we'd be talking about a top 6 overall pick. He should go light it up. But let's see Tua make it through the game. Let's fully believe in it. The matchups there, I don't know, how you don't have both these guys in your lineup, Steven. I think they're both A-plus plays. I have them both in my top 12 running backs. I do have Mason just very slightly a bit ahead of Etienne. More guaranteed to see those 17 to 20 touches. The Cowboys are an even better matchup than the Cardinals on the ground. So I think, we're going to get 18 carries at least for Mason. This is like his last kind of chance to start and show. You often see the backup running backs. You'll play with a little extra fire, a little extra juice, given that the bye week's coming up. And then all expectations are we have CMC back in this lineup. So, yeah, I think Mason, the running back 9 for me. Etienne, the running back 10, another one of these ones where they are truly neck and neck. You can make the case for either of them. They're both top 10 running backs. I don't know how you don't have them both in today, Steven, but if I had to pick only one of them, it is Mason, just a little bit safer, not quite as high of a ceiling as Etienne, but not a significantly lower ceiling either, Stephen Drake's. So, yeah, that's a very, very tough one. And then in terms of would I trade Hall for Mixon, I would not. Now, we're talking about 2 of the top 5 running backs in fantasy the rest of the year. They look phenomenal. But with Hall, 2 games so far under new OC Todd Downing, playing 80% of the snaps, both coming up 2 career-high games in snap share in back-to-back weeks. You love to see it. He's an every-down player right now, getting tons of passing game volume. I think the Jets as a whole will continue to round into better form as an offense. And we got back-to-back 20-point days there for Breece Hall. Now, I know Mixon, when he's played the 3 or 4 full games he's made through, I think 4 now, he has had like 25 or more fantasy points in all of them. He's an absolute smash play too. But I typically went like very equal, similar style players for the rest of the season. Which one would I rather have? I'll go with the younger guy versus the running back who's already had an injury this year, who, a huge workload already. Definitely more of a risk that Mixon would break down here than Breece Hall. But ultimately, I love these both. They're both top 5 running backs for me rest of season. I just do lean slightly Hall over Mixon, but man, that's close. For me, though, it's also like, why? What's the point? If you're swapping running back 4 for running back 5, what are you doing for your team? Are trades should typically like upgrade a spot of weakness, or you need depth, so you trade a stud to get two guys. Typically, I'd rather be on the trade two guys and get a stud side of trades as well. Like, what's the point of swapping one really good running back for another really good running back unless you had a feeling that Mixon truly was going to be monster compared to Hall? And I don't. I think the way Hall has played, especially in this new offensive coordinator's role, like where he's just an absolute bell cow, I think he's the one I prefer rest of the season, especially with the youth on his side. But again, I go Mason one spot ahead of Etienne. It's very close, Steven. I don't know how your running backs are that good that you can't have two top 10 running backs in your lineup, but man, you must have like Henry and Saquon or something as well. Harry Taylor, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Full PPR, Jay Taylor, B-Rob, or Hubbard, Goff, or Murray. So just to reemphasize, I'm not playing Hubbard today. Do not want to put him anywhere in my lineup. Don't want to have any Panthers in my lineup. I don't think they score a single point. With Bryce Young facing the Broncos there, no faith in them at all. I would go Jonathan Taylor. This is your first-round pick. This is your guy. Let it rip. He's back. He practiced in full all week. I do love B-Rob today, though, with Jayden Daniels. Like, I feel like that's much safer now to play Brian Robinson, given he's been – this is a top 3 backfield and expected overall fantasy points because they love using the running backs. It is a phenomenal spot for him. And Chicago, actually a top 10 matchup for running backs, as good of a defense as they are, much scarier as a pass defense. So Brian Robinson in a great spot today. I like both these guys a lot. But when push comes to shove, Taylor's my 18. This has happened a lot today. Taylor's my 18 and Robinson's my 19. So they are very close. But I do lean, again, your first-round pick, the guy that you built your franchise on. He's been very good on the games that he's been used and active, Jonathan Taylor has. So I'm just going to ride him out. I'm going to play him today against Houston. Definitely not Hubbard. Hubbard's a distant third in that question, even though he's been so good, even though the best of these three with Andy Dalton, not with Bryce Young, not against the Broncos here. And then Goff or Murray. I lean Goff. The upside is definitely higher with Kyler. We know that. Goff playing at an MVP level, completing 84% of his passes across the last 3 weeks. Was it 9 touchdowns, 1 interception? He is cooking. And the risk there is Tennessee just stinks and, doesn't push this team. They don't need to throw. But we've seen Mason Rudolph, make offenses competent in the past. It's not impossible that he does that. So I do see a world where this does become more of a shootout than people expect. And Goff, I just think you're gonna get your 250 yards, your 2 touchdowns, your 18 points. If you need the upside a bit more, okay, sure, go to Murray. He got over 20 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3. He's looked better. I think that Miami and Falcons game or Cardinals game really has a lot of blow up potential, much more than I think the Lions and Titans is. I think it's going to be a blowout, but they could blow them out and Goff could throw for 4 touchdowns. So I like Goff today. So generous, guys. So many super chats coming in today. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support, keeping the lights on over here at Roto Street Journal. You guys are the best. And free way to support your boy, almost 1,300 here. You love to see it. Thank you guys so much. A thumbs up on YouTube, a new subscribe on YouTube if you're new around here would mean the world, and that heart button, retweet button. Love to do this every week with you guys, and the growth has been so encouraging and so reaffirming. So thank you guys so much for being here. CJ Stroud or Caleb Williams for Davey Dave. I would go Caleb Williams in this one, especially now that Jayden Daniels is playing. This becomes a much more likely to play, at least. Not a guarantee, but seems like he is trending in. Makes it much more likely that this game becomes more back and forth. Commander's secondary is certainly better this year than last year. They had nowhere to go but up, and they're still not very good. So I could see Caleb Williams trending very much the right way, 22 and then 29 points across his last 2. Seems to really be rounding into form. Battle of the 2 rookie QBs. Who's the best one? A lot of hype in that matchup. Love to see it. And, CJ Stroud stinks. He's I don't know. Does he look like fatter to people this year? He's just not moving. He looks like a marshmallow. I don't know what's up with CJ Stroud this year, but it's and a lot of it is play calling. They are just feeding Mixon, and they're winning. So it's like, okay, I get it. Fine. I guess it's good play calling because you're winning games. I don't think it is. You got CJ Stroud. You're not going to win the matchups in the playoffs just like handing it to Mixon 30 times. I don't expect. But that's what they're doing. And so the Colts, such a bad defense in general, but very bad against the run. In fact, the run rate against the Colts, teams run the ball at a higher rate against the Colts than any other team in the league so far. And we've already seen that with the Texans versus the Colts in their previous matchup. It was just the Mixon show. So, yeah, I'm going to go Caleb Williams in a much better shot at a game shooting out. Hey, good morning, Derek. Thank you again, as always, for your super chat. You're so generous, brother. It happens every morning. D. Smith or Waddle. My other receivers are Reed and BTJ. I would bench D. Smith here. I'd rather play Waddle. I would definitely play Reed and BTJ. I totally agree. Those are the top two options for you. And then I am going Waddle with Tua back. I just think this whole offense finds its gear. Plus, you do have a banged-up Tyreek coming in. I don't think it's an overly concerning injury. I think he's going to be fine. But what if something flares up? And we've seen it. When Waddle's the number one, he plays like a true number one in the NFL. He is. He's worthy of being a number one. He just has, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the league ahead of him. Waddle could be an absolute monster, though, should he have to play. And then I'm worried about D. Smith. I think that game's going to be a real fun one. Bengals versus Eagles, definitely some shootout potential in there. But because he had 0.3 last week. It's AJ Brown, clear cut number 1, and D. Smith, clear cut number 2 at this point, not a 1A, 1B. And that's been okay for most of the year, but I just think there's a lot of upside to Waddle today. Whether Tyreek gets hurt or not, it probably won't, but even still, at the number 2 there, I see a lot more potential to Waddle succeeding as the 2 than I do D. Smith with Tua back today. I feel great about it. But I would go Reed, BTJ, Waddle's how I have them ranked, Derek Just. Thank you so much for the super chat. Stephen Drake's second super chat of the day. You are so generous, brother. Thank you so much. Hunt or Etienne? You have the running backs of all running backs there, Stephen. That's really tough. I mean, because Hunt's getting 25-ish touches. Like, that's how the Chiefs offense now operates, and they're coming against the Raiders, a top 3 matchup for running backs. They are so generous. The Panthers and the Raiders right towards the top of the league in points allowed. 2 backfields, and the Bills somehow up there too in the top 3 points allowed. So great spot for Hunt to get fed and to feast. I do lean with the upside of Etienne in this case, though. With Tua back, he's the role for Etienne has been really solid. Everyone around him has just been hurt. And so I know we haven't been getting the explosives that we got last year, the efficiency we got last year. I do think a huge part of that is not having Tua, and defense is just completely stacking to sell out Miami's run game. I do think part of it is the line has taken some hits and is not nearly as good as last year's line, in particular Robert Hunt leaving. It has been impactful into those inside zone runs. There's no doubt about it. But I still believe in Etienne. I think he is such a good talent. And if you told me I knew that he was going to get 65% of the touches today with Tua now back, which he probably is, that's what he's been getting all year. Yeah, I'm going to ride that out. I'm going Etienne. And I would totally agree with Walker, Gibbs, and Mason. Your backs are sick, Steven. Like, you got to find a way to trade at least some of these guys. Maybe you can pair up Kareem Hunt and wide receiver 2 and get a wide receiver 1 upgrade or something. I know Mason's the pumpkin's coming soon, so you're losing one of your options, but you still have so much depth. I would definitely see if you can find like a running back needy team that has some decent receivers and see if you can make a move. Maybe you can pluck Nico Collins for cheap with him due back soon, but maybe his owner's struggling because he's been hurt for 4 weeks, something like that. You got too good a depth here. But, yeah, I would go Etienne over Hunt, and I would play Walker and Gibbs over those guys as well, and Jordan Mason too. But you have – this is one of the rare times I think I've ever seen you have 4 of my top 10 running backs, and then Kareem Hunt's my running back 12. Like 5 top 12 running backs, Steven. That's nuts. Well done. I'm jealous. I am very jealous of that. Start Tua or Daniels. I would definitely do Daniels. I'm riding that train as much as I can. You got 2 injury question marks. Why not go with the guy that has averaged 25 fantasy points per game nearly? In Chicago, not the best of matchups, but I love it. The duel of the 2 number 1 and number 2 overall picks. They both have a lot of pride. They're both going to be trying to outdo the other. I think it's going to be a real fun game. And so I like Daniels there. Tua in a great spot against Arizona. It seems like everything's all good, fully healthy, not even going to wear the concussion helmet. But, hey, I think I'm a little more nervous for Tua making it through the game than I am Daniels. So I'm leaning Daniels. He's just been too rock solid all year, Edgar. Your fantasy locker room, you got to maintain it. Thank you so much for the super chat too, Edgar. And thank you, Nick Walker. Help. Start Waddle or Devonta. Thanks. I'm here to help, Nick. And I think somebody else just asked this one too. And I would go, as I told that person, I'd go Waddle. I think in the battle of number twos, I think there's a much bigger chance that we see Waddle more involved in this game. Tua throwing it far more. There's just more volume up for grabs because the Eagles, with Saquon there, what a sponge of volume, what a beast, a deserving sponge of volume. But he's going to, all right, 20 plays going to Saquon. Alrighty, and now we got maybe 20 pass attempts. 10 of them are going to A.J. Brown, okay? Do the rest, the remaining 8 go to Devonta? Maybe. And maybe this game opens up and shoots out and the Bengals get a huge lead, and Devonta would cook in that situation. But I just think I feel much better about Waddle getting his 8 to 10 targets than I do Devonta. And similar talents, love them both. Both could be number one receivers in different situations. I lean Waddle, though, today. I like the matchup better, and I like the bet on volume a little better there. Caitlin Powell, thank you so much for the super chat as well. Pick 2 PPR. Scary Terry, MHJ, Najee, Pickens, Chubb, or D-Hop for Caitlin. I would lean Scary Terry now that we know that Daniels is very likely to play. It's a tough secondary, tough matchup. Scary, I understand it. But they have been lights out, the chemistry between Terry and Daniels, and averaging right now 26% target share, just cooking. Absolutely cooking. So give me Scary Terry as my favorite option of these. Gets tough. I do lean Pickens as the next closest one here. Just moon balls from Russ. It was beautiful. A thing of beauty there for Pickens this last week. And nothing that Russ can throw a great ball, but he can throw a great jump ball, and Pickens wins jump balls, I think, at the best rate of the league. Maybe the data supports that, maybe it doesn't, but just eyeball test wise, if I had to pick one person to make a contested grab for me, I think George Pickens is the number one on that list. He just makes circus catch after circus catch. Not a scary matchup with the Giants. Now Dory Jackson also ruled out, even better matchup for Pickens. The upside is just so high. Najee, definitely the safest. I would rank Terry, then Pickens, then Najee would be the next man up. I'm considering. I like MHJ, Chubb, and D-Hop just fine, but in these options, I really would limit it to those 3. Najee being the safest. You're going to get 20 carries. The dude has 100 yards in back-to-back games. Solid. I could see that one just randomly imploding, though, because he hasn't looked great. He's had a couple okay runs, but doesn't look amazing. He's been getting better by the week. There's no doubt about it, but he's still there could be a 18 carry, averaging 2 yards a pop right up for you, and you get 4 or 5 points. And with Pickens, with Scary Terry, the upside is just 100-yard touchdown. I guess as it is with Najee too, but in a full PPR too, when you're getting those receiving points, it's really close. But I'm going to go Terry, and I'm going to go Pickens, and bet on the receiving talent in the PPR setting. Thank you, Caitlin, for the support. And Josie with a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Josie. I greatly appreciate it. Full PPR. I have Devontae and BTJ as my wide receiver 1 and 2. Awesome. Would you gamble with Higgins if he plays, or play Wan'Dale Robinson instead? So it does sound like Higgins is trending towards out. They're pessimistic about his status. So that game, I believe, is at 1 o'clock. So we will know. Let me just double check that. I just want to make sure, because the timing of that game. So we got Wan'Dale. The Giants game is going to be at Monday. So you have that backup plan either way. You'll know if Higgins plays or not. If Higgins plays, I probably do get him in, because that means he's not going to push it on that franchise deal if he's not really ready to go. There is the risk it flares up, and hamstrings are finicky. That would make me nervous. But if he's in, I imagine it's a no-brainer, because he must be fully healthy or close to it. The team will feel really good. He'd be feeling really good. I don't think he's going to push it if he's not at 100%. That's kind of the risk of giving these players the franchise tag. Is, are they going to really sell it out for your team if they're at less than 100%? Probably not until the playoffs, at least. So I don't think we're going to see Higgins anyways, and that makes this easy. You just play Wan'Dale. I would ask, though, Josie, because I like Wan'Dale, don't love him. And the Steelers matchup, the one thing working in his favor is those Steelers are very bad against slot receivers, and that's where Wan'Dale plays almost exclusively. So that does help Wan'Dale out this week. But I would say, is Jalen McMillan out there? I'm more excited about him. There's more upside to him. I probably would go Wandale over like Cedric Tillman and Ricky Pearsall, the two other wide receiver sleepers I love. But if McMillan is out there, I'd rather have him than Wandale. But yeah, I'm guessing this isn't going to even be a question because I don't think Higgins plays. But if he does, that means he's in really good shape, and I would be playing Higgins. He has more targets than Jamar Chase, and now they get a horrible Eagles secondary. Okay, I'll fire it up. I would play Higgins for sure if he plays. But if he doesn't, Wandale's a very fine gamble, given how bad the Steelers are against slots. You guys are so generous with your super chats today. Thank you again so much, Josie. And thank you, Manny69, for the super chat here. CJ or Purdy, also Komet or Ertz. I would go Purdy over CJ Stroud. Again, just don't love playing Stroud, given how run-heavy this team is. It makes no sense to me, but that's how they do it. And then I'm going to go Komet over Ertz, no doubt about it. You know, I love the floor of Ertz. It's been really nice. If you punted tight end, you pick this guy up, you're getting 5 catches. You're getting 55 CR. That's it. You're not getting touchdowns. You're not getting much else. Whereas Komet, like, we've had 20-point days multiple times this year. And so if I have a shot to just, like, punish my opponent from the tight end position, your opponent's likely to have nothing useful there. So, yeah, I like going Komet. I like going for the spike upside. The matchup against Washington, nothing scary about that. So give me Komet there over Ertz, Manny. So Purdy and Komet for me. And then Jose, thank you so much for your super chat as well. Would you drop wide receiver Jameson Williams for Tillman or Bateman? I don't think so. I mean, I know he's been so boom or bust, and now you have the suspension here. But the booms have been far more consistent this year for JMO. He's played a much more diverse role, a blitz killer. He's been a guy that they've actually played some dump-off snaps, and he outruns the rest of the defense. It's not all just like, if he doesn't catch moonshot, he's not doing anything. They're getting screens to him. He's had a really solid role. And I know it's kind of been 0 or 18, but it's been 18 more often than it's been 0. And what if something ever happened to Amon-Ra St. Brown? I'm intrigued by Tillman. I really am, but not enough to drop Jameson Williams for him. But I am excited to see what Tillman does. 31% target share first read this last week. Could definitely be that number one. He fits the prototype of a Jameis Winston, throw that ball up and let's see what happens type of receiver. So I do like Tillman, but not at the expense of Jameson Williams myself. All righty, guys. That wraps up these super chats so far. Thank you again so much. So generous of you guys. 18 of the super chats today. You guys are if you do want to support your boy, but for a freeway, that thumbs up button. Almost 1,400. I think we're hitting a record level of views right now, which is so amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it. But a free way to hit it is hit that like button on Twitter, that thumbs up on YouTube's, all the shares. It really does help us get out to more people. But on to the mailbag here. Thank you again so much. We have about a half hour left. I'm probably going to cue the rapid fire up in just a few minutes because there's a lot of questions here. I want to try to get to as many as I can. And Luis Perez asking in a super chat, you are so generous. Thank you so much. Right as I get to the mailbag, hey, you guys always get priority because you're supporting your boy, and it is so greatly appreciated. Pop, McMillan, Leggett, Warren, need one flex PPR. I would go out of all these guys, definitely McMillan is my favorite here. Luis Perez. I think with him, you not only get a great week 8 potential streamer, he's going to be sliding ideally into that Chris Godwin role. They talked about they need him to step up the most. Liam Cohen pulling him off the side of practice and saying, like, this is your time. All the extra work they did over the summer, him and Baker coming now. McMillan saying, I did everything I could to make Baker trust me with everything in his body. Love the quote. Great quote from him. And ultimately, it makes me feel bullish that, yeah, he put in the work. He wants this to succeed. The dude is a dog. He's a baller. I loved him in college. I thought I'd rather have the Pats drafted him than Jalen Polk, his teammate, who sucks. I think McMillan's going to be the real deal, and I think he's going to jump off today. Don't like the matchup for Pop against the Jets. Leggett, probably the number one receiver for the Panthers. What does that matter when it's Bryce Young throwing you, when you got Pat Surtain draping all over you? No, thank you. And then Warren, 12 touches were nice last week when they were up huge. I don't think we can bake on it. He's a distant second and still doesn't look quite like, not even close really to that, like one of the most efficient backs in the league like we saw last week. So, yeah, to me, McMillan's the clear-cut highest upside, also the most like long-term stash upside there too, is where I see him. So that is where I lean. All righty. Thank you again so much, guys, for your generous super chats. Let's dive on in Aiden Delmanian asking McLaurin or Pearsall. Definitely McLaurin for me now that we have this news that Daniels is very likely to play, so it would seem. So I'm definitely rocking him, even though I do like Pearsall, as we've talked about a lot today. Waddle versus JSN. Oh, it's Waddle for me. I do not like JSN. I'm hoping I have to start him in a league, my most important league nonetheless, too. I'm hoping for the best, expecting the worst. Like, it's been one of those things where he has no more excuses. There's no DK, and he's still going to get a dink and dunk roll. He's still not going to lay out for balls. He hasn't earned the targets. I watch him play, and he plays soft. So hopefully he proves me wrong today. But like, unless it's like a quick little easy, I don't like him. I don't like the player, clearly. As explosive as he could be, outplaying Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson in college. I get it. Like, there is upside there. If it doesn't happen today, I'm going to be furious. But I'm going Waddle either way. If I had that choice, I would no-brainer put Waddle in over JSN in my own lineup. I love it with Tua back. I think that's going to be a fun offense today. Sit one PPR for my man, Dynasty Dumpster Fire. BTJ, JT, or Swift. That's a really tough one, Dynasty. I'd probably sit JT here, coming back from the injury. What if the ankle doesn't look, great? What if it flares up? I can't sit BTJ in a full PPR, absolute animal. And they're going to be chasing points today. So give me BTJ. And then Swift, I mean, what is it? 3-4 straight games with 20-plus PPR points. He's really just taking the reins on that backfield. He's gotten a nice receiving role out of it, looking really solid. The offense as a whole is really clicking. So, yeah, Swift has become like a must-start, honestly, at this point. And so JT is as good as he is, first-round pick. Like, it sucks to bench him, but, hey, it's a good problem to have when it's because you have this many good options. So I am sitting JT in that one and playing DeAndre Swift. My running back 14 this week is DeAndre. Love him this week. Zubat Slayer. Paintel's pan, frying pan hands, and I no longer feel safe. I love it. He does indeed. That's a good way to put it. I don't know what's going on. He was such a stud last year. I don't know what has changed. It's awful. But a half PPR. Should I roll the dice with Pearsall, whose entire team is injured? So they're all injured, but they're all playing other than Ayuk, who's done for the year, as we know. Zubat. And so, with Deebo in, with Kittle in, I do think Pearsall becomes the third option here. We just haven't seen that be all that valuable even for Ayuk this year. So why is Pearsall going to suddenly dominate in the role? I don't know. I do like it, though. At the end of the day, you see a Cowboys team giving up 28 points per game to teams, second most in the league. The top 10 matchup and schedule-adjusted fantasy points. Pearsall's a yak beast. He's dominant out of the slot. So there's a lot of upside. Anytime Kyle Shanahan spends a luxury pick, a first-round pick on a receiver, when he has a good option, yeah, I like it a lot. So I'm rolling Pearsall when I, have a tough, wide receiver 30-40 range. I think Tank Dell, one more shot, big plays, the way they surrender it. I'm going to keep rolling that one out. Another super chat. Thank you guys so much. Virginian man, 935 asking, and cheers. Thank you so much for the generosity here. MHJ, D-Hop, Pearsall, or McMillan at flex in a standard league. Whew. I feel like, especially in a standard league where you're not getting, the cheap dink and dunk points, it's more about prioritizing touchdowns and big plays. I have a hard time not going MHJ. I know how bad he's been these last 3 weeks. I just think this team is definitely going to get pushed. I think, the Tua return, Miami's going to be fired up. They're going to be slinging it up. They're going to put their points up, and they're going to need a throw. And I don't love Drew Petzing. I think he's a bonehead in terms of great run game play caller and schemer. Not great. There's so much more you could do with MHJ in a layup like Michael Thomas role. He would be feasting. He could do that so well, and for whatever reason they don't. But I also see 30 points in a quarter for MHJ against the Rams, and the ability to get deep, the ability to jump the ball in those touchdowns. I would hate to have him on my bench after a few duds, and then he just goes bananas. And to me, he's a little bit maybe a tier above these other guys who are all very intriguing. McMillan, Pearsall, D-Hop. We've talked at length about all of them on the stream at different points here. And I love McMillan. He's probably the next closest for me. If you're like, I'm done with MHJ, not doing it, then McMillan would be my next one up here. I really think he slides into that Godwin role. He's not Godwin, I get it, but 67% of the routes from the slot in college, 2.4 yards per run, really efficient in college as well. Big play guy, big fan of him. So I think he's the second man up for me if you wanted to steer off of MHJ, Virginia, but I'm going to go him. I think Pearsall contained with a few too many mouths there. I think Jordan Mason's going to get absolutely fed against a bad run D. And then Kittle, of course, will get his. Deebo's back and playing. There's upside. If Deebo's not at full strength and then is in and out of the lineup, okay, Pearsall probably going to run the most routes. D-Hop, too. I think long-term, like, very much could be above MHJ the rest of the season. It's just the first week he gets traded there. You know, we saw it with Cooper last week, only 34% of the routes. Cooper did put up 16 points, and that could happen with D-Hop. And I do think he eventually slides into that Rashee Rice type role, the Juju type role, the layup targets. I think that happens for him, but I don't know if it happens this week. I think it's a quick turnaround for a complex offense here. So I'm going MHJ. Like them all interesting options, but I do have MHJ towards the top there, Virginian man. Thank you so much, though, for your super chats. It is greatly appreciated. Deebo confidence, Brent, I mean, if he's out there against a bad Cowboys defense, I'm playing him. I have him right around my top 12 wide receivers. No Ayuk, always been a volume hog in these type of situations. It's just a matter of like how the lungs, does he actually hold up for it? But yeah, I'm playing him. I'm firing him up. Buenos dias, Mr. Modena over there. Great to see you. Thoughts on benching Marv for one of these? Rico, Pearsall, or McMillan? McMillan's the closest one to us, as we were just talking about. But I still lean MHJ. I just go for it and hope for the best. But, man, it is getting close. It's getting very frustrating. Thank you so much for being here over from Panama. Love to see it. I am going to start because I just see the mailbag. It is absolutely loaded, and I want to try to get as many of these as we can. So I'm going to start a 20-minute timer because I do have a hard 10 o'clock stop going over to get measurements at the new house that we just purchased. So excited. First-time home buyer, and we're getting some measurements and starting to set some things up. But I got to make sure I am off right at 10. So 20 minutes start now. Let's get as many questions as we can in. AR5 or Tua, I am going Tua Mogging on a prayer. Gabriel asking Cedric Tillman or Tank Bigsby. I am going to go Tank Bigsby over Cedric, but I do really like Cedric today. After the clip on Wicks, thanks, guys. Oof, that one is rough. I think everybody in the fantasy space was hyping up Wicks. I think Christian Watson's injury ended up being a lot less serious than people think. Still think there's upside, though. If he goes down again, Wicks is super talented. There's not the end of the world. Anthony Richardson or Rodgers. I would go Rodgers today. Nix or Winston. I like Winston. And then need 2 full PPR. Marvin Harrison, Tillman, Wandale, Mooney, or McBride. I would go with Mooney and McBride is where I'm leaning there, Aaron. Harrison Jr. or Rashad White. I would go Harrison Jr., but it's close. Whew. Maybe I go Rashad White and just play it safe there. Like and share and subscribe, people. Thank you so much. Just said before that reminder, with nearly 1,500 of you here, we'd love to have you join. Subscribe, hit that thumbs up button, hit the heart button. You guys are the best. As we mentioned, Dynasty, we are answering questions. We already got to yours. Start Higgins or Reed. Definitely Jayden Reed, even if Higgins plays, which he probably won't, but if he did, it would still be Jayden Reed. J.T. Jones, start. I think you super chat this one, or maybe not, but I would not put Franklin in over any of those guys. I would go probably Tillman, then Ricky, then D-Hop. McMillan, the top of that list, though. McMillan was my favorite from all of them. Need a running back. Algier, Warren, J. Hill, McLaughlin, Vidal, Los Pacheco. The only other running back I have is Jacobs. I would probably go with Algier, the ultimate kind of handcuff with benefits and the right game script. He'll get a bunch of carries. You're starting a backup, and he's a good bet for volume for sure. Higgins out, bro. Yeah, it seems like he is definitely trending towards out. Don't forget that like button. Salute to you, too, Michael. Don't forget that like button. I appreciate it. Bucky Irving over Tracy. Thank you, Omar. I appreciate that. Giants O-line. Yeah, that's what worries me the most is that line. I'm going to go Rashad White over Chuba Hubbard. Do not want any Panthers in my lineup today. PPR flex Pollard, Bigsby, McMillan, or Mark Andrews. I would go Pollard for this one. Or no, I think I go Bigsby, actually, now that Travis Etienne has officially been ruled out. New to the stream. Hey, glad to have you here. No apologies needed, Dynasty. Just like to get through the news and super chats, and then we answer all the questions we can before 10 o'clock. Tua or Jay Daniels. I would go Jayden Daniels, Blunt Brush. And Brian Robinson or Tank Bigsby. I do go Brian Robinson. Bigsby better with no Etienne today, but I still like Brian Robinson there. PPR, flex, Marvin Harrison or Tank Bigsby. Thank you. I would go Tank Bigsby in that case. Thomas Radke got a kicker question. Been riding the Niners. Do I stick with Anders? Nah, he sucks. I would go with Lutz. Anders just misses point after point. I hate him. Well, has more faith in the Browns than I do. So here's the deal. I don't have faith in them winning this game against Cleveland. against Baltimore. I just have faith in that passing game, putting up some real totals here. My man, Omar. Kate Otten or Jake Ferguson. I would go Fergie, but man, that's close, Sean. And then we got Omar asking, need two between MHJ, Dobbs, and Olave, full PPR, 10-point bonus at 100 yards. Whew, that bonus is real nice. I would go MHJ, and I think I'm leaning Dobbs here for the other piece of that, given that matchup against the Jags. Papa Sarno coming in from the top rope here. No question, just supporting RSJ. Like and share for the best channel on YouTube. Hey, thank you so much, Papa Sarno. You're the absolute man. You consistently super chat, and now you super chat, and you don't even have a question. You are a legend for that. Thank you so much. Love it. Thank you so much, man. Full PPR, Gino or Tua, BTJ or Pickens. I would go Tua over Gino, and I would go BTJ over Pickens, Mr. Simp. G. Medina, Kraft or McBride. I'm going McBride. Thank you again for that super chat. I think you asked that one earlier. Gina, Tua, or Caleb. I go Caleb of those options, CPD through 13. Start two, BTJ, Jacobs, JT. I am benching JT from those options, Shovel Gaming. Over Target Media, Sean Lane. Oh, so they're talking to each other. So I love that. Help each other out. I'll keep filtering towards just the questions here. Todd Jones, morning, half PPR. Do I start at flex a hobbled Flowers, Lockett, Algier, or Downs? I would just roll with the hobbled Flowers. Would they really be rolling them out if they were truly scared against Cleveland? Probably not. So yeah, I think Flowers is going to be good to go. And I think the Browns will keep it competitive enough that they have to keep throwing. If you didn't want to, if you're real nervous about the hobbled, though, then Lockett would be my next man up, but I am going Flowers. Kraft or Ferguson, I am going Kraft here against the Jags. Such a great matchup. Touchdown, boom, upside. Assuming Daniels is playing, Caleb or Daniels, I would go Daniels. I know it's risky with the ribs rushing upside. Like one bad hit can be bad, McKenzie, but I'm rolling with Daniels. Burrow with potentially no Higgins, or returning Tua or Gino. I got to keep riding Burrow even without Higgins. Definitely riding that one. Big shootout potential game here. Two questions, sir. Caleb, Kyler, or Tua? I'm going Tua for that one. Or rather, I'm going Caleb. Sorry. Caleb is the one I would go for that one. And then Jalen McMillan or Pop Douglas. I am going McMillan over Pop Douglas for sure here. Right, 842 is where we left off. We got another super chat coming in from Mike Kelly. Thank you so much for the support, Mike. Keon or McMillan? I love McMillan today. I know I've said it a lot. He's kind of the name of the stream today. Hoping he pans out. This is what it comes down to McMillan, and I've said it, but I'm going to say it again. The table is set. They need a true number one receiver. They've already come out and told him, like, we want you to be that guy. He put in all the work this summer to forge that rapport with Baker Mayfield. He had the role as the clear number 3, played only one fewer route than Chris Godwin through the first 2 weeks until McMillan himself got hurt. And then he missed a couple weeks, kind of fell out a little bit because of that, and allowed like Shepard and Trey Palmer, some of these guys, to rise a little bit. But ultimately, he was the guy that was the clear number 3 by the end of camp, had a good rapport with Baker Mayfield, and is continuing to forge that. So I really do think that's going to thrive through. He's the one with all these guys. Like if someone emerges a true number 1, I think McMillan's the best bet. And they're going to give it a real try today. Baker, good quarterback. Cohen, a great play caller. Like the table is set. Comes down to is McMillan good himself? That we don't have the full answer on yet. We haven't seen him use in the future role, but I loved him in college. I think the guy can play. So we are going to find out sooner than later whether this guy can ball or not. So I'm going to go with McMillan over Keon there. I think Cooper just continues to eat in. It was nice to see him play well last week, Coleman, and I think he's going to have a nice role here down the stretch. But I think McMillan has the much better shot at being like a true number 1 potential. So yeah, I like McMillan a lot today. And then we got Jacobs or JT. I'm definitely going Jacobs in that case for Big D Bob. Rashik Ahmed, top of the morning. Kraft or Kincaid? Definitely Kraft. Kincaid stinks. So annoying this year. Tight end at tight end. And then JSN, Bigsby, or Pearsall for your flex. I'm definitely going Bigsby with no Etienne on that one. Dalton, start 1. D-Hop, Pittman, McMillan, Tolbert, Pearsall. I would go McMillan out of all those options, Dalton. PPR flex spot, Connor, Cook, Waddle, Brian Thomas, or Najee. I would go Connor here. I love the matchup. Love the workload. Seen 18 to 20 touches in nearly every single game this year, and Miami's a top 5 matchup for backs. Keep riding Connor. Love him. David Day, Deebo or Mooney. I'm going to go Deebo. I'm hoping for the best here tonight and just hope he's fully healthy. We shall see. Pop Douglas or Jalen McMillan. I'm going Jalen McMillan over the Pop. Don't love the New York matchup, and there's going to be upside is much higher with a player like McMillan. Tyson Sant, Ramondre, or Bigsby. I would go Bigsby, definitely. I would have probably gone Bigsby even if Etienne played, and I don't like Ramondre at all right now. Dylan Fink, what's up? Full PPR, different leagues. Start 2 flex Bateman, Adunze, Shakir, Olave. I would go Olave and Shakir in a full PPR, especially with Flowers now playing Bateman. Very intriguing, though. I don't trust Adunze quite yet. And then in another league, start 1 flex tight end or a tight end. Javonte, Will, Bateman, Komet, and Ertz. So for the tight end one, I do go Komet over Ertz. For the flex, I go Javonte. I think he's an absolute smash against Carolina today, and really is kind of pulling away. He's like a 65 to 70% back in that backfield. Dylan Fink needs a quarterback, 2 running backs, receiver, and a flex. I would go Daniels over these quarterbacks. I would go K9. You don't have to ask about Kenneth Walker. Please don't do that again, Dylan. Don't insult Kenneth Walker like that. I would go Kenneth Walker and Jacobs for the running backs. And out of all these receivers, I would go Scary Terry now that we have Daniels. Stack those boys up. Do you like Mahomes at all today? No. I'm -9 ECR on Mahomes. Maybe he bombs the Raiders. Dude hasn't had 20 fantasy points since last year. It's been almost over a full calendar year since we've seen Mahomes put up 20-plus fantasy points. Oscar O, half PPR. Garrett Wilson or Pickens. I go Pickens there. Very close. 2 top 22 receivers for me, but I go Pickens more. Have Jayden Daniels. Need a plan B off the wire. May, Nix, Rodgers, or Jameis. So your plan B has to play later in the day, and I believe the Pats are at 1, Pats versus Jets, so can't be one of those guys. I think Nix is the only one out here that would play after. So my plan B, the guy I have the highest of these guys would be Rodgers, but I think Daniels is playing, and if you need a backup plan, you want it to be someone that plays after 4 p.m. because that's when the Daniels Chicago Commanders game is. So I would go Nix, I think, is the only one. I'm not even 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure Nix plays. The Broncos are at 4 o'clock. So that would be a backup plan. He's a pretty good one, too. Full PPR, Wandale or Cedric. I would probably go Wandale in a full PPR. He is just a PPR scam there. Good morning, football fans. Week 8 already. Can't believe it. Halfway through the season. I agree, Toby. Pick 2, Dobbs, McMillan, Bigsby. I would go Bigsby and Dobbs. Thanks. Happy days. Happy days to you, too, Mr. Toby. Daniels or Tua. I'm going Daniels over there, Steven. Happy Sunday, Wolf. Thank you, Nancy Story Trakeoff. Kraft or Laporta. I am going to go Kraft over Laporta. He's just been an absolute beast, and the Jags are horrendous on defense. Half PPR for Steven. Okay. I don't know what the question was. I don't think I'm asking your quarterback question, what you were asking earlier. Shade 721. Standard score, need 3. JT, Dobbins, Mason, Gibbs. I'd be benching JT of those 3. Love him, though. What a backfield. And then 1 QB, Purdy, Williams, or Tua. I would be going Williams of those QBs, Mr. Shades. Morning, Wolf. Morning, Tony. Superflex, Winston or Baker. I'm going Baker. I think a lot of people hating on Baker unnecessarily. I know he lost his weapons. The man has been balling. I think he can still get it done. We'll find out today, though. Good test for him. And then PPR, Dowdle or Wandale. PPR, I do love Wandale, and the Steelers are very bad against slot receivers. Alrighty, Wolf. Full PPR for Chris Vallette. D-Hop or Chase Brown. I would go Chase Brown over D-Hop myself. We already got that one for you. Toby, happy days indeed to you, sir. McMillan or Rashad White. I'd go Rashad White, producer Jay Gotts for this one. Coming off 2 touchdowns. I think they're going to lean on their running backs quite a lot, but I do love McMillan. I do prefer White myself this week, though. Good morning. Heard bad at wide receiver from Mr. Tony Romero. Anybody hurting at receiver, go check out RoadStreetJournal.com or about my 3 favorite wide receiver sleepers that we covered earlier in the show, but a lot of depth at the website. Plenty of streams for you there, Tony. But let's talk about who you have. If Higgins doesn't play, and he's probably not going to play, Bateman, McMillan, or Douglas. I like McMillan myself of all these guys, and I think the long-term upside is the highest with him as well. What's up, man? For Eric Buckman, good to see you, brother. Pearsall or Tillman, 2 of the best sleepers of the week. I lean Tillman now that everybody's in for the Niners. It's very close, though. You're talking like wide receiver 36 and 38. They're right there. But I go Tillman slightly. You're welcome, Senior Rojo. Thank you so much for the super chat. So greatly appreciated. Rashad Bateman or Cedric Tillman for Anthony L., young and captain. I go Cedric Tillman. I do. I love Tillman today, especially with Zay Flowers now playing. Play 2, Hopkins, McMillan, Judy, Shakir, or Pittman. I am going to go McMillan and Shakir there, Alex Winton as well. AR Cannabis, always supporting your boy. Thank you so much for the super chat. Good morning, Wolf. Good morning, AR. Thoughts on Purdy over Goff? That's how I would do it. I have Purdy higher. I think that game has, as bad the Cowboys have been, 28 points allowed two teams, the second most in the NFL, and they have a decent enough offense that I think they could push them a bit more. I think the Goff game becomes a blowout. They just lean on Montgomery and Gibbs down the stretch, bleed clock. Goff will probably complete, 90% of his passes, have a really good real-life day. But in terms of fantasy points, I think Purdy's ceiling is just a bit higher. So I go Purdy over Goff. I'm with you there. Otten, Pearsall, or Tolbert for the flex. Ooh, I like Cade Otten there. A double tight end's coming back as these guys continue to rise up the ranks there. But 10 targets for him, became the main vein of the passing attack and made some really impressive grabs. Like I've always said, like Otten's just a guy, and it's just a guy running routes. He kind of sucks. But then when he finally gets his shot, like he was making contested grabs. He was looking decent after the catch. I was impressed with what I saw from Otten. So I'm going to fire him up in the flex over those other options, which are all pretty okay. I like Otten there, though. Pearsall, we've talked a lot about on the stream. If Deebo or Kittle was out, if one of them was out, I'd feel a lot better. But even Ayuk, as the number 3, wasn't doing a ton. Do I really expect Pearsall? Could catch a touchdown. Love the player. I think he's a good option, but you have 2 really good options around him, and I'd go Otten there. Pearsall will be the next one, though. Would you trust Najee over Bigsby, Tracy? I would probably, back-to-back 100-yard days for Najee. Gets the Giants, shouldn't have any problem steamrolling them. So, yeah, I go Najee over both those guys. Bigsby's very close, though. He's like 2 spots below Najee for me. But I do like him. I like Najee quite a bit this week. So, yeah, that's a good one as well. Thank you so much for the super chat, AR Cannabis. Really, really appreciate it. Caleb or Stroud? I would go Caleb over Stroud today, Lyle. I just do not like Stroud right now. Big JT or Jacobs matchups better for Jacobs. We're going Jacobs. I agree. Daniels or Tua? It is Tua. I go Daniels over Tua myself. How we doing, Frazier over in Scotland, if I'm not mistaken, right? Javonte, Kamara, and Garrett Wilson need 1 running back and 1 flex. I would go Javonte over Kamara, which is kind of crazy, but the Panthers matchup is just too juicy. And then the flex, I would actually probably go both running backs in this case, Frazier. Full PPR for Gabriel, wide receiver 2 and flex. Garrett, Adams, BTJ, Tyreek. I would go Tyreek and BTJ and kind of keep seeing how this Jet situation plays out, but that's a headache to have all year. But I'm definitely playing Tyreek with Tua back, and BTJ is unbenchable at this point for me as well. Daniels, if he plays it, we do have another super chat. So thank you so much, Andrew Meng. NT30. I don't know what that means, but hey, I'll take it. Thank you so much for the support, Andrew. Bigsby or Etienne? I'm definitely going Etienne with Tua back. The role has been so solid these last few weeks, nearly 60% of the touches and snaps for the most efficient back in fantasy last year. So great. So he hasn't been quite that level yet, but I think a lot of that is because there's been no Tua. So I think he returns to absolute smash territory today. Top 10 running back for me is Devon Etienne. Bigsby, great last week. Don't think he sees that same positive game flow today. So I think Etienne's the safer play. Bigsby's a complete zero in the passing game so far this year. I believe he's at 3 targets on the season. So I'll go with Etienne, just much more likely to stay involved no matter the script, and so damn explosive with his quarterback now back. And then Waddle, Pickens, or JSN, full PPR. That also, full PPR helps Etienne out in that question. He was already the pick. So to me, I actually do have Waddle the highest of these guys. Now, if that's too much Dolphins for you, like if Tua ends up getting hurt or it's just doesn't look like himself, I could see that being risky. So Pickens is very close to Waddle. So if I was in your shoes, if this is the same team, I would probably go Etienne and Pickens to just balance it out a little bit and not overload the Dolphins. Now, if Tyreek was somehow ruled out or got hurt, then you load up on Dolphins. But I would probably go Etienne and Pickens here. Despite if this is 2 separate leagues, I would go Waddle over Pickens. In a vacuum, I do have Waddle higher. It just comes down to if you're playing both Dolphins on team, I tend to like to spread my points out a little bit, and I would go for Etienne and Pickens in that case, Andrew. But I do have Waddle the highest. So if it is 2 separate leagues, I would stick with the 2 Dolphins there. But if not, go with Pickens over Waddle. All right, thank you so much for the super chat. You guys have been so generous today. And now we got finding my spot. We were right at Daniels or Kyler. I would go Daniels over Kyler. For you, Steven, Mooney or Bateman. If Higgins is out, I would go Mooney over Bateman. Dan Meyer. Need to sit 2 full PPR. Waddle, Michael Wilson, Pearsall, Bateman, or Demario Douglas. I would sit DeMario, and I would sit Michael Wilson. I don't even know why he's on your team, too. 1 p.m. Daniels, 425. Yeah, I would still go Daniels, and maybe like Bo Nix is waiting out there for you. Daniel Jones plays Monday night. If Russell Wilson plays Monday night, if he's out there, you can find the backup, hopefully. Welcome to the witching week. What's good, Wolfpack? Good to see you, Hemdog. Couple of PPR tight end plus queries. Pat Fryermuth, Mostert, or Watson. I would go Mostert there and hope for the touchdown luck to come back now that Tua's there. Also, Waddle, BTJ, or Neighbors. I would go BTJ. I'd go Neighbors. I think they're going to grease the squeaky wheel. So I would go there. Keep hitting the likes and subscribe. Yeah, 1,500 a year. Love to see it. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe. A lot of new names there. Would love to have you guys join. Ertz, when Eifert. I always love their name. Tank Dell or Keenan. I would go Tank Dell today and hope for the big play against the big play. They always give it up. The Colts do. Alexi Rill, must-win situation. T. Higgins, risk of playing as a decoy. I don't think he's going to play. But who would you go instead? I would go Tillman. And you kind of seem to be leaning that way. As you know, the Baltimore secondary is decimated. They're going to need to throw in comeback mode. So I do like Tillman a lot today. I know we've answered that one already, Toby. Please don't repeat your questions. And then Campanella is going to put you in timeout next time. BG Vargas dropped JMO, but should I pick him back up and drop Lat? I'd drop Pop. I would keep JMO over Pop myself. MHJ, Pop D, or D-Hop at flex. I would go MHJ. I know it's scary, Virginia man, but I keep rolling. Elijah Moore, thoughts, chat? I'd rather have Tillman, and I'd rather have Judy. I think he's like the distant fourth behind all those guys and the Joku too. Gabriel, Wilson, Adams, BTJ. We're going BTJ and Tyreek. Don't repeat your questions, please. Bigsby or Chase Brown. I would go Bigsby very slightly over Chase Brown. Strap boy, Poppy. Pollard or Najee. I would go Najee from Thailand over there, Gabriel. Love to hear it. I love when you guys tell me where you're coming from, and I love when it's international. Very cool there. All righty. Last one, Caleb or Strat. I am going Caleb, but it was a repeat, so I'll say Hemdog. This will be the last question. Would you advise on trying to sell JJ when buys start hitting again? Liked your midseason takes on Darnold. I'm pretty wide receiver heavy in a 2 receiver. So that's a tough one to evaluate. I love Justin Jefferson, though. I'm not trying to sell him unless you got an absolute haul, like one of those elite running backs plus type package. But I don't really want to sell him at all. I do still believe in Darnold, even though the truth does not. And I would go Shakir over Pearsall, and I would go Joe Burrow over Jayden Daniels. And that will wrap us up, Wolfpack. Thank you again so much for being here. I hope I got to your question. If I didn't, I apologize. But I do have to run off now to get some measurements at the new house purchase. So thank you again so much for being here this morning. StreetJournal.com. Got the 3 wide receiver sleepers, the best ones of the week for you up at RoastStreetJournal.com. So check that on out. And again, hit that like, hit that sub on your way out. It would mean the world. In a world full of fancy sheep, guys, be the wolf and check out RoastStreetJournal.com. Till Tuesday, 7 p.m. waiver stream, 6 p.m. waiver stream on Tuesday. We'll be live then. Later, guys.